Your tender ways surround me. You bring peace and joy and laughter everywhere. Where you go, the sunshine follows. You're a breath of spring and winter, and my heart and soul always in your care. Gentle and my heart and soul always in your care. When you touch me with your fingers, my cares and worries fly. I belong you before the rising sun. When your eyes tell me that you love me, and my soul is filled with wonder, and my love for you will live when life is gone. Gentle Annie, gentle Annie, and my love for you will live when life is done. You're a bird song in the morning. You're a breath of spring and winter. You're the laughter of the children at their play. You're my hope, my joy, my wisdom. You're my reason just for living. You're my treasure, you're my very gentle Annie, gentle Annie, you're my treasure, you're my very the mountains all have crumbled, and the earth has stopped its turning. When the winds won't blow and the stars refuse to shine, when the moon has left the heavens and the seven seas are empty, I will still have gentle Annie. Gentle Annie, gentle Annie, I will still have gentle Annie, but still have gentle Annie, I will still have gentle Annie. And you say we got nothing in common, common ground to start from, and we're falling apart. And you say the world is coming to us, come between us. I know you just don't care. I said, what about breakfast at Tiffany? She said, I think I remember the film, yes, wonderful. We both kind of liked it, and what that song, that's one thing we done. That's one thing we got. That's one thing we got. That's one thing we got. Oh, all the money that in my whole life I did spend, be it mine right or wrongfully, I let it pass gladly to the hands of my friends to help tide the time more forcefully. But the battles are done, and we killed each one, and the tables are full and overflowing. The golden sign says it's closing time, so I'll bid farewell and be down the road. Oh, every girl that ever I touched, I did not do it harmfully. And every girl that ever I hurt, I did not do it knowingly. But to remain as friends, you need the time to make amends and stay behind. Since my feet are now fast, I point away from the past. I'll bid farewell and be down the Oh, every foe that ever I fought, the cause was there before the king. And every cause that ever I fought full without regret or shame. But the dark does die as the curtain is drawn, somebody's eyes must be gone. And if I had to stay, I'd only stay the day. So I'll bid farewell and the night and be gone. Oh, every thought that's strong and not in my mind, I might go insane if it couldn't be sprung. And it's not to stand naked under unknowing eyes. It's for myself and my friends that my stories are a spy. But time ain't told, yet on time you depend. I know word is possessed by no special friend. The line is cut, it ain't quite the end. So I'll go farewell till we meet again. Oh, a false clock tries to take out my time. The disgrace distracts and bother me, and the dust of rumors blows into my face, and the weight of the hundreds cabins me. But if the arrow is straight and pointed slay, it can pierce through dust no matter how thin. So I'll take my stand, I'll remain as I am, and I'll bid farewell and not bitter again. It was still ringing until I threw away the plectrum here. Hello, friends. How you doing? Was it still ringing for you? The volume turned up around 56, so I'm not sure how it comes across. Really, I rarely listen back to any of my hangouts. I just assume it comes across reasonably okay anyway. And it was still, the guitar was still ringing in the end. The special, not a special, energy in the air. And tonight it's a rainy night in Limerick, and it's been rainy for the last few days, but I sort of enjoy the rain somehow. Does anyone else here prefer the rain to the sunshine? I don't know how that works, but I hope in general the sound came across okay. Um, yeah, what do you make of those songs, friends? I wonder how many of those that you know. I pretty much guarantee 90% of you, if unless you heard me singing it before, I've never heard the first song, which is Gentle Annie. Uh, a brilliant song. It definitely didn't do justice to it, but hopefully it came across okay. And some great lyrics as well. The last verse of it is pretty significant and special. When the mountains all have crumbled and the earth stopped turning, the earth never turned and to begin with, or did it? The earth, the surface we're on doesn't turn. At least there's no way we can gauge that it turned, but something above us turns. And maybe there's a connection broken between what's above us and what's beneath us and what we're on. So by nature, we all should turn, but something has been severed. That's a good way of putting it. I think if we think it in these terms in general, every song you hear, every poem, every how what are you going to put it? Every weighted thought. When I say weighted thought, the thoughts that come from the intellectuals or the poets or the musicians or the stars or whatever, so the experts in their field, yeah, everything is weighted. Everything has the potential to be decoded once we understand who is acting their part and who isn't. Maybe that's the purpose in life, isn't it? To find out to the best of your ability how much you are acting yourself, your part. But the first song, Fair and Gentle Annie. So yeah, so to continue, when the mountains all have crumbled, when the earth has stopped its turning, so they already know we're flat earthers. They're already flat earthers and beyond, but they know that some part of the earth is turning. So we got to work that out. When the winds don't blow and the stars refuse to shine, um, when the moon has left the heavens and the seven seas are empty, I will still have a gentle Annie on my mind. So Annie predates any of this. So I guess we got to work out who Annie is. Annie, get your guns. Annie, get your guns. But the second song was maybe for I'm 50 now. I guess if you're like a teenager or early 20s in the 90s at some stage, Breakfast at Tiffany's, a little later 90s as well, it came out. I think it was like in 97, 96, 97. But yeah, definitely mid to late 90s. Yeah, you'll appreciate that song. So, although you mightn't, I guess you might. I guess if I was to go into it, at least my decoding of it, you might think differently of it. I think if you recognize a song in the first place, well, it remained with you because it's a pretty good song and it's pretty sort of boundless as well. I think it was an American band. I don't even know too much about it. It was an American band who sang it, but it was a hit this side of the water as well. And I think it good, especially now anyway, but back then as well. These bands are all promoted, so they're all sort of fabricated bands, and they're given material, and they're put forth as a mass influence. This is the way I look at it now. But yeah, if the song, the music itself meant something to you, well, then you might look a bit deeper into the lyrics. And of course, the lyrics are applicable to ourselves personally. But there's also a big connection to 9/11 as well, would you believe? Would you believe that? So what everything ultimately connects to 9/11, which is division, reunification. But the third song there was, yeah, brilliant song, Bob Dylan, Restless Farewell. I said it was about three Bob Dylans. But who knows how many other, who knows? Just characters on the stage. Bob Dylan's a corporation. Think of it as a fabricated man incorporated. That's it. And then you have these hits released or these releases released in the name of the corporate man where there's profit to be made. But ultimately, it is a deeper significance to it all. The superficial layer is that, yeah, we were always meant to figure that the 9/11 was a hoax or Bob Dylan was one of many, or, all that sort of stuff. But well, what has been said on a deeper layer, and I mentioned this many, many times, Bob Dylan is one of the massive keys. It's the best I can write. One of his most revealing songs is Isis. I married Isis on the 5th day of May, but I did not hang on to her very long. It's telling our own story. So many things that you relate to yourself that you get, I guess. But you probably get everything anyway. You know what I mean? But it's just when the context is right, when the time is right, when, yeah, when fate dictates. Maybe let me have a drink and say, Slán to my friends, love to all, and Hovel. But Restless Farewell was on a particular album with Bob Dylan where you had this transition. He was telling you about his parting expressions. Maybe the character who was playing it, he didn't want to leave, but he was forced to leave because of his prevailing sway. Remember the Beatles, Elvis Presley, they were all orchestrated. Everything is a part of a greater construct. When it comes to natural contributors, I don't know, man. I don't know where it begins or ends. I do have a direct connection to people who are famous, which is the Cranberries. I grew up with Noel Hogan, who's the lead guitarist, and he's still alive. I should get in contact with Noel Hogan. I really, depending on how everything goes, I'd have no problem at all doing it. I'm sure he'd have no problem at all getting in contact with me, even if it was for professional purposes. I'd be a songwriter, contributor to the music. But the Cranberries, what's left of them, where I think they're still going. Yeah, but I think you're sort of born into it, or you can make your way up into it, and then you're left in the secret. You're into the inner clique. You know what I mean? And then once you're told the secret, or I guess if you're let into a secret, where are you going to stop? You're not going to be let into half the secret. You know what I mean? I think the truth is probably very simple, or simple enough anyway. Which is another song that example, and another character along the same lines as Bob Dylan, which is Neil Young, right? And his song, The Thrasher, it lays it out. You know, the thrasher is separate the wheat from the chaff. And I had a great conversation with, you wouldn't know him here, Reese is his name. I might put the link in chat if Reese wants to come in. I have 20 hours a month, and the last one went for about 6 hours. But some conversations will be excellent conversations. You know that for a fact. Jed, Globe. What Globert Skeptic is that his name? Jed Skeptic. He dashed off immediately because he can't answer any of my stuff. So that's when I appeal to people to join. Hopefully you're advanced flat earthers, you know what I mean. So we understand that the lie is given to us. So we're trying to figure out to the best of our own ability where we actually are at, and the only way we can do that is follow the clues, But Phoenix. I was talking to Reese Phoenix the other evening. I might give him the link if he's available, and it'll definitely make for a great chat. But yeah, all of these different cultural influences, and especially the stars, the televisual medium is the biggest influencer there is. It's not as if though everything is evolving from a prior diminished state or form. No, everything is scripted out. We are exactly where we need to be right now and where we have to be. I think that's just the way it is. Every flat earther is a non-atheist. And if they were serious about making the transition from globe earth to flat earth, they were an atheist at one stage because they trusted in a different higher power, which was the giants of the minds of the men of science. You know, so yeah. There's a different context to what they're thinking, and yeah, let me just say to finish that. Well, restless farewell. The old Bob Dylan was saying goodbye, and I can post the lyrics if anyone is interested, or just look it up yourself. Restless farewell, and it lays it out for you. It lays it out for you. All of these are prophets in a sense. These are like the old Psalms. These are the new Psalms. They're the Psalms, right? And all these stars. These are the prophets of the Bible. The thing is that they're realer than any of the prophets in the Bible because they're in your own time and they exist to some degree. I just mentioned that the characters, but they exist in your own time, whereas the old characters didn't exist because that time didn't exist as well. I'm not telling you have to believe that, but that's just something for you to consider. This is flat Earth and beyond. It's flat Earth is obvious. But it's almost too obvious, isn't it? There has to be more to it. When you come to flat Earth, then you come to question the historic tale that's given to us. And ultimately, you come to question your whole very nature, your whole very fucking sanity. What the fuck is going on? What the fuck is going on? But you know what I mean? I think all of these songs, especially the three songs I chose tonight, are telling in their own way. But that's not to say that any other or every other song is not telling. Maybe everything is telling in its own way. Can you hear the rain outside? So yeah, I might do that. I might post a link to in New Zealand as well, antipodal to Ireland, almost in New Zealand. But we had a great chat the other evening, and yeah, definitely the potential to have a great chat. Why do I do any of this stage? To focus on who am I talking to, you know what I mean. It's more of an outlet for me to speak my own mind and see what comes from there. And that's one thing I appreciate, I suppose, more than anyone as well, or anything. Because imagine I turned the computer off, I wouldn't talk the same way. You know what I mean? I would just wouldn't. Might think along certain lines, but I wouldn't talk or express the same way. You hear that? You heard all that, Fran? That's so soothing to me. I don't know why that is. In my old sort of scientific mindset, I thought that it was a throwback to, and my son's mum Sarah bought me a CD just to, or a tape or something, just, before the days of the internet. I guess it was before the days, or before we had the internet anyway. But it was just a tape played. It was just full of rain falling on a roof or on a car roof or whatever, or on the ground. And my thoughts genuinely back then were it was a throwback to our evolutionary days when we were in the midst of the savannah. We were apes in the middle of Central Africa. And there was many, 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 many nights where we were comfortable, snug as a bug in a rug, in our tree or whatever, in our alcove, and the rain was pitter pattering on the vegetation around, and on the vegetation around, and on the greater surround, right? So I thought it was. I was certain that was why it was such a comfort for us. Living involved or existence involved with certain sort of differing emphasis. Now, why it's comforting for us, and for me, well, melancholy, isn't it? It's like rain is the tears. We are in a fallen state. I'm a flat earther, in case you didn't know. So what does that mean? Well, it means it means everything is different. It means everything is different. So it's that somber in a sense recollection that's ingrained within us. Tears of something desperate has happened, some great falling has occurred, and indeed we're told at the start, as I as I mentioned many times, goodbye, baby, on the treetop. When the wind blows, the cradle will rock. When the bough breaks, the cradle will fall. Down will come baby, cradle and all. Beautiful melody, right? Horrible words, or at least not horrible. Fallen state, you can always rise back up. Maybe this is part, the nature of things. Par for the course. Par, I was really thinking about the word par. It's a golfing term, but more than that. I think all of these different developed games and cultural references in terms of childhood activities or whatever, be it nursery rhymes, childhood games in the playground, song ditties or whatever. I think they're all there to give us a clue, and I think this is the emphasis on our experiences here. We are in a fallen state, but there is hope. We can rise back up. Your suffering, your pain is not in. This is what the heliocentrists tell us, isn't it? It's not in vain. Your suffering, your pain is not in vain, and everything will be, can be, and will be resolved. Isn't that the ultimate hope? Is that the hope that's provided external to you? Although it is, we don't get to know what we know unless it's an external influence. But it's a hope that you grant yourself. More so than hope. Hope is, yeah, with something outside of your hands, outside of your being or your ability to know. Whereas, yeah, I hold deeply that we know everything. We ventured into a forgetful state. Where does that lead us? Who knows? How do I move from minute to minute? How do you move from minute to minute? You tell me. You tell me, because I can't tell you. But the context for thinking about life, the universe, and everything has changed. So, how has your thought process has changed? I don't know what to say to that, really. Who I know. All is changed, changed utterly. A terrible beauty is born. That reminds me of Dolores O'Riordan. So I remember I was talking about the cranberries. Dolores O'Riordan faked death. Has to have faked her death. My mother gave out to me for ages. She said, "You're a coward." I'll tell you all the things she said about me. I said, "Look, ma'am, if I go up there, what the fuck am I? I'm not. Can't go up there to the funeral and say that. Oh, I suspect she faked her death." And she said, "Why not? It's an open coffin. You what?" Well, I said, I can't even do that. Even if I suspected it, it's gonna be war. And I wouldn't dream of doing that. But I do suspect that. And so she held that sort of against me. I didn't have the balls to go up and walk around the coffin. My own thinking was that even if it was an open sort of showing, that they could have easily put a wax dummy in there. The Cranberries had their greatest hit singles ready to go, and when Dolores died on a Saturday, the Cranberries' greatest hit singles were ready to go, and it was on the top of the charts nationally and definitely probably to some degree internationally for ages, for ages. So they made a nice little number out of that. But anyway, then it turned out I met someone who was at the funeral afterwards, and I said to my mother, and he said, "Well, no, no, no one could go in. It was a closed sort of setting, so it was just family and friends only inside to view the coffin." So I said, "Yeah, fat a lot of good. I would have it would have done for me to go up there. You know what I mean?" But yeah, yeah. Why I mentioned that was uh, all has changed. Changed utterly. Terrible beauty is born. Limerick band Cranberries had a few songs based on sort of themes developed from W.B. Yeats. And not to dwell on this so much because I did sing the last time the love song of Wandering Aengus or the song of Wandering Aengus. But W.B. Yeats is a very significant character. He's like all the characters, he's like a superstar of the past. You know what I mean? If I was to name some Irish superstars, one of the recent ones that occurs to me, well, a couple of them, two Dublin guys, Colin Farrell and Owen McGregor. Not Owen McGregor. Who am I thinking of? The fucking kickboxer guy, the MMA guy. What's his name? Ewan. No, it's not Ewan McGregor. Is fucking Obi Wan Kenobi. Um, what's that guy's name? Oh, Dublin guy. Who the fuck crap out of here? Um, what the fuck is his name? Actually, now there's suspicions that there's a. So I think of his name, but there was a trans investigation done. Now, if you think it's all crazy talking about trans investigations, yeah, well, Elvis being a tranny, Elvis being born a female, brought up as a male, not beyond the realms of possibility. When you delve a little bit deeper into it, there seems to be a whole lot of information that leads you to some sort of similar conclusion. It's the same thing with many of the male icons or stars that are put before us. I have some sort of grasp on what might be going on, but I joked about it before. But I joked in terms of I thought this is definitely true before. Now I don't think so much about it. But my father, when he married my mother, David and Mary, he married his ideal Marilyn Monroe. She was the woman of the time. And Mary then, on the other hand, married Elvis. And David's very good looking man, and obviously he is like because I am, but that's not beside the point. But he was a very good looking man at the time, and yeah, my mother married her manifestation or picture manifestation of Elvis. She loved Elvis because she fucking queued up at the cinema loads of times to watch Elvis's movie. It was just an idol established, right? So I'm thinking the same thing or similar thing was with Marilyn Monroe. Maybe not necessarily Marilyn Monroe, maybe Raquel Welch for my father or something like that. But you know what I mean? But it turns out that all of these people might have been transgendered at an early age, and this is what this innate um, attraction. This is how this innate attraction is established. Because remember, from the earliest of ages, boys get on with boys, girls get on with girls. They hang around. Any interrelationship between boys and girls goes well for a while, but usually ends up in the trash. Do you know what I mean? So, whatever the nature of this reality is, it seems like there's so much transgenderism influence in play. And it's not just that it begins right now, it was always in play. How do you feel? I could go further and say not only was it's not my findings. I have my when I'll let you know my own findings when I have them. But you might think that no one else you never heard this before. This is ridiculous. Lots of people have thought about lots of things. But not only was Marilyn Monroe a man, Marilyn Monroe was played by Jackie Kennedy, who was JFK's wife. Not only was JFK a female, but he slash she was also involved in a fake or staged assassination, which was symbolic in nature. How would you feel about that? You lose people, don't you, left, right, and center there? What do you do? What do you do? You know, can't blame anyone for being fooled. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice. Well, you can't fool me three times. No, no, that's not right. Fool me once. He was acting the fool that time when he said that. It's fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. What that means ultimately is, well, I take you for granted. I take that, I give you trust that you're not trying to fool me. So if you do fool me and I'm taken in by it, that's on you. But if I haven't learned from previous experience with you and you fool me again, well, then that's shame on me. So that's the point of that. But he purposely, for George Bush is a great actor. Many of you there know that George Bush played the role of Charles Manson, the 1969. So the moon landing hoax, right? Obviously, you know the moon landing is a hoax, right? But it's not just like, oh yeah, I know the moon landing is a hoax. And I used to say this to Sarah. Well, you like you're sheep. You're sheeple. I don't like that term. Well, now I don't blame you because it's like, yeah, what the fuck did I know? I knew a different layer, but there's so many other layers as well. I wonder what's the best layer to be at. I actually am sure what the best layer to be at is the child layer. That we don't fucking pretend that we know anything, and yet we know everything. Yeah, we're the foolish adults, you know. But yeah, how many of you would be? My sister hasn't. Actually, funny enough, my sister is in New York. Would you believe my mother was saying it to me? My sister is in New York, and the reason I haven't spoken to my sister for the most part is that I told her 9/11 was fake, and she's just, oh yeah, well you just crossed the line, crossed the line. Now at the same time, when Corona came along, she was the first to be vaccinated. She even was one of the first to vaccinate her child. My nephew Kevin, who I love, he knows I know the Earth is flat, or maybe he's learning, but I haven't seen him in ages as well. But yeah, one of the first things to create that divide was my assertions on 9/11 and how her sister-in-law or her husband's Kevin's sister and their family were living in New York and they were witness to 9/11. When I pushed it further, well, they didn't witness it in person, they just saw it on television, but they were there. They were there. So you know what I mean? I can't change from my point of view. I know that the only way she can go is to come towards ever more readily, I guess, towards my point of view. You know what I mean? I can't go back to thinking what I once thought. She can only ever make that move in that direction. So until that, I guess that bridge is mended. What are you going to do? Everything I say, and that's not to mind something I accepted wholeheartedly 10 years ago. What have I learned since then? You know. I sang my Corona is a hoax song today. I might sing it. Let's sing it again now because I think we're free enough to sing it, aren't we? There's no more masks involved. A few masks going around, but there's no more masks involved. I got a strike for token. I'm not a strike, a warning, I suppose. Couldn't post for a week, just for it was again going against established medical advice. And what was I suggesting? Just well, take care of your own body, know yourself. If there's any real threat, consider it carefully and dutifully, and just be very careful whatever you inject into your body. That was my advice at the time, and the same thing now. But now I was always free to say that I thought, in my own personal opinion, that Corona was a hoax. So I'm free enough to say that. But it's just when it comes to giving medical advice or going against sort of accepted or established medical advice that the objection is raised. So yeah, I'll play my Corona as a hoax song in a minute, and I wonder where I'll. Well, we'll see where the night goes. I'll tell you. I'll put out the link. I'll put out the link, but yeah, I'll give the link especially to one person. But if or maybe two people, if you're not beyond, let's get serious. Let's get serious. What question? When you come in here, tell me what question you're working on. What question you're working on. Have to be working on something. At this stage, you have to be. Because obviously, this is like for flat earthers and beyond, no bullshitters. But you have to be working on some question. The very basic level of our thinking has to be that the truth is known. We're in some sort of a setting, and everything is sort of pre-established. You know what I mean? There's no other way to put it. How can everything just be developing naturally otherwise? It can't be. So yeah, if we understand that everything, well, to use a Tim Osmond phrase, although I use my own phrase associated metascriptural. So it's like a metascript. There's a script going on, but it's a script of our lives which encompasses everything. If that's in play, How far have you come to consider, well, what the story is about, or your story is about, or who, or what the author is? Do you know what I mean? So that would be the questions I'd like to venture into. I don't want to go over the same things over and over again. I had a great chat with Lemon Bird earlier on. Great chat with Lemon Bird. Um, but it's all just internet chats. You don't know anyone. You don't know anyone really. But I guess you try to be yourself at all times. I guess I'm in a different position as well. I was in busking today, and I get to see a lot of people going by, and I understand that I'm definitely the difference. You know, people walking by, people, life going by, traffic going by. Very occasionally, you meet someone like me singing on the street, and I can also carry a good song, or I can carry a song well enough anyway. Um, and that's not because of anything special, friends. If you sang the songs that I've sang, the amount of times I've sang them, come on, you know what I mean. But I do sing them, and I do enjoy singing when I sing, and I don't mind people. I don't mind what anyone gives me. I thank everyone the same, and the number of children as well that come up, and the number of children who sort of again who could keep their eyes on me as we're walking by. It's a big street in Limerick as well. Yeah, I engage. I engage because, well, that's what it's about. I don't care. It's not about the money. It's not about the money, but I do appreciate every contribution. So yeah, I realize I'm in a different sort of situation, but at the same time, I'm just telling you some aspect of my life. You have your own life. You have your own consideration. When I say children as well, it's the children especially, but I get I get great smiles from everyone. And from there's loads of different nationalities. I wasn't going to talk specifically about nationalities. There's a big troop of people going through today talking about, well, they weren't talking about anything, but I guess at some point they were talking about free Ukraine or stop the oppression in the Ukraine. They were all well dressed, in fairness. And my initial impression, remember on my own channel here, I talked when the COVID was in full swing. There was this troupe of actors going around. I know they were actors. I took the fucking microphone and it shut me off. But they were. I know they were going around. I'm not saying they weren't nice people. Going around, they were the official opposition. So I know that they were a troupe of actors. When I talked to them, they were unwilling to sort of engage, and it was just like, well, they were in the midst of their daily routine. I suspect the same thing is going on with the Ukrainian sort of influence now. But that's not to take away from any individual. I welcome everyone, but I guess we all have to be treated equally in the sense we're in a different world. The Earth is much different and much smaller now, but we all have to be treated equally. When you welcome strangers with open arms, but you don't look after your own, there's a problem, and there is a problem as well. And I know that firsthand as well. Not firsthand, secondhand, you might say. Actually, I'm going to mention it briefly. Going back, and I was self sufficient at the time, but I was talking to a guy, and you get a basic allowance for if you're on the dole here, or if you're in, some disability or something like that. But there was people coming in, a big push to bring people in back in 2005 or 2006, back in that time. And it was the Celtic Tigers in full swing. But anyone who was coming in, especially from Africa, this is what the guy was saying as well, they were getting up to a thousand or whatever, any of the things that they needed, they were getting paid for every week. So they were provided accommodation and they were given hundreds of euros on top of that. You know what I mean? So I have this on more than one occasion. How the Irish people and the people who were involved in sort of making the decisions, um, they were ordered or instructed to make the distinction between Irish people and foreigners. So obviously there's a different plan in play. Obviously there's a different plan in play. What's the ultimate goal of this plan? Who knows? Who knows? Maybe every experience in our own life is ultimately worthwhile and ultimately priceless. You know, and to gauge it in such terms as I did, and that's not the way I gauge it at all. I don't begrudge anyone anything, but we need an equality on all levels. But we also need just a complete transformation. And I think this is what's happening. Our reality is actually dissolving, friends. Our reality, or more idea, our ideas of reality is dissolving. To come back to what? Well, to come back to you and your impression. It's like raindrops on a roof. It's like roofs falling in. If you're happy now, you've been doing something wrong. If you're not hated by your most nearest and dearest, you've been doing something desperately wrong. Why? Justifiably so. You're saying shit that goes so against the grain. There's another grain. Remember I mentioned the Thrasher by Neil Young? Separate the wheat from the chaff. To go against the grain so severely that there's no other reaction that can be had but to cut you off at the head. I told people many times that Corona was a hoax. I told people many times Paddy Bennett's next door had a massive heart attack after having his second booster. 2 hours later, his daughters know it, but Paddy and his wife and the doctors say there's no. Doctors told him there's no connection at all. So that's it. So you can't mention it anymore. The minute you mention it, then there's uproar. You know. Anyway, um, I said this from the start, and I said that. Well, I'm not going to go into this now. One thing Paddy Bennett said to me, he said, Pete, I'll give you this. You're mad as a fucking hatter. Everything you say, 9/11 is fake. Obama is Osama is Will Smith. I don't blame him. And the earth is flat. You crazy, etc., etc. He says, I'll give you one thing. I was looking up the numbers on my own computer. This was back in mid-corona times. And he was going, and no one seems to have died during the corona from pneumonia, even though there was 8,000 listed pretty consistently year on year going back before Corona. And doesn't it turn out that there's a big association between sort of Corona, if you get Corona, pneumonia then is more prone to developing from that weakened basis. But pneumonia still affects quite a number of people in Ireland. But he said there was no one listed at all. Now I know someone who couldn't get to say goodbye to their loved one because of Corona. And how would a person know the difference between corona and pneumonia? How would they know it? With just trust as well, wouldn't they? And I guess at the end of the day, at this stage, hindsight is 2020. Remember it, friends. Hindsight is 2020. I'm not that I'm anything. Maybe I'm something. Well, of course, we're all something. because I can't say I'm nothing. Because how am I associated with something I consider to be everything, which is my beautiful son Steve? So if I'm going to say I'm nothing, but I feel like nothing, but I can't say I'm nothing because I can't. Nothing can produce everything. How can nothing produce? Although having said that, everything had to come from nothing. Right? That's what the science is about. Everything had to come from nothing via what the singularity. What do you do there, friends? What do you do there? Well, I guess you got to step away, isn't it? Just got to step away. I can't change my fucking mind. I can't change my mind. And what goes on in the lives of someone else, what do we know about? Aren't we born alone? When we live alone, maybe we die together. Remember did that? I keep doing that these days. I used to keep drawing intersecting circles on beer mats, but this is what I do these days. You see the way the camera is turned around? Look up that chair, but type in a twisted tree of life. I bet you get something like that. Remember I said encoded within that is pi. Pi is the relationship between the diameter and the circle, but everything comes from a certain point, right? So the circle is just a series of radiuses going out at an increased frequency, and then all you do is join the dots, right? But if that center point is going out, around, and up and down, then this is what phi represents. This is what phi represents. And isn't that your DNA stranding? Remember I said, encourage you next time you have a pee as a urination as a male or a female. Assuming as a female, I never examined it. I never said, "Hey Sarah, can I have a look at how your piss stream comes out when you're pissing on the toilet?" I never did that. But yeah, look at my own. Yeah, it's like this because there's a divide within. That's us divided. We got to straighten yourselves out. Left brain, see, right brain, left side, left brain, right side. But it's not just in a sort of a linear fashion, right? It's in a linear and a twisting fashion at the same time. It applies to you, my friend. And if you deny yourself, that's okay. That's a crime. That's a sin. That's a sin. If you deny yourself, but don't deny your child. Or if you don't have a child, don't deny that you are a child of somebody. And that wonder is contained within you. What are you going to do? What would you do different if you knew you were God? Come on, answer me. What would you do? Win the lottery? What would you wish for? Be careful what you wish for, right? What would you wish for? Last count, friends. And gladly so. I'm not lacking or anything. I'm happy enough with this now. There's still a good bit of weed left. Raindrops keep falling on my head. Um, I've been saying this to myself. There's lots of things that you won't hear from anyone else. I'm not putting myself up on any pedestal. I just know there's so much, you said vitriol, there's so much objection to advanced thinking. So once we understand that the ball lie was given to us, handed to us on a plate, we know that the truth has to be, or at least a greater level of truth has to be in pre-existence in order for the ball lie to be created. So the onus is on us to be like Sherlock Holmes and understand that there are potentially many different layers. We're dealing with master criminals in a sense. We're dealing with nemesis, the deepest liar within ourselves. You know what I mean? I think this is what it represents as well. How much we want to get to the truth, as opposed to how much do we want to satisfy our need for sort of some sort of comfort or consolation, right? I would go. The truth always shines because our experience here is temporary, and whatever we've done, if you gauge it within a finite setting, then it will lead you down a certain path, a certain you can appreciate everyone can appreciate this themselves. But if the setting suddenly changes, then we can look at all of our dealings, all of our doings, all of our thinkings, all of our sayings in a potentially different sense. And I think that's what we all indeed should do. Everything, consider that everything you think, you say, and you do counts. But now, because you're aware of that, everything you have thought, everything you have said, everything you have done is capable of being forgiven. And who must do the forgiving first and foremost? God loves you. God trusts you. Forgive yourself, and then God will forgive you. God has already forgiven you because you've forgiven yourself. But within this greater context. That's all there is, friends. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter what it is. We just didn't know. We didn't know. We lashed out. I lashed out. So, raindrops falling on a puddle of water. If we look at the sky and if you look at it with some sort of keen eye or knowing eye, you'll be able to identify the different star relationships via the constellations. 88 constellations, right? Anyone who plays piano, grand piano. Hey, Johnny, 88 keys. But yeah, it's identified. We come to reckoning via the lines, the straight lines drawn by men. But as you look at the raindrops falling on the puddle or on the puddle of water, yeah, it's all circular, it's intersecting circles as they emanate. So erase the straight lines of men, which are stupid in the first place. If you think about it, even if you believe that you live in a spinning ball Earth, why are they connecting in straight lines stars that are millions of light years away and putting them on the same one, a singular plane? Yeah, it doesn't make any sense, does it? It doesn't make any sense. It's like saying, well, I have a basketball in Limerick. You have a basketball in Ennis. You have a basketball in Dublin. I have a basket. You have a basketball in Milton You have a basketball in Belfast. And we're going to connect a line between everything and say that it is uh, what would you say that is actually? It depends on where you're looking from. Actually, if you're looking from ground level, so imagine you're looking from ground level from a place in, if you don't know Ireland, It's a little island just off the coast of Ireland. Anyway, if you're looking for ground level, all you would see is a straight line. You would just see a straight line, assuming the Earth was flat. If you assumed the Earth wasn't flat, you'd definitely just see a straight or a bit of a curved line. But everything beyond a certain point, you wouldn't see at all. But assuming it was flat, all you would ever get is one sort of dimensional view. But it's only when you sort of rise up with your drone mad head in you that you'll be able to look down and see, okay, I can see now how these different basketballs are connected. From, just to show you I'm not incapable, from Limerick to Ennis to Milton Malva to Cork to Belfast. So if you drew a line connecting all of those, you would only be able to get the certain perspective and certain honing in on the representation from a different point of view. So yeah, this is where we're at as flat earthers. There's a different point of view in play. And needs must, then you get to this divide and you cross the divide. It's almost like the bridge. It's almost like the leap of faith that you have to take, you know. And then it's everything after. You'll have you'll have a greater context for everything, absolutely everything that came before. You're young, my friend. You're young, my friends. You're young and beautiful and wonderful. Why wouldn't you be? You were born that way. When did you stop being that way? Because you convinced yourself? Because other people convinced you? Anyway, when you erase the lines of the 88 constellations in the sky, which are determination or reference points in terms of the greater universe, then you can start to see the circles. And I challenge all of you to go out and try and make those circles yourself. Which circles makes the most sense? As a flat earther, I can see 3/4 of the universe. I can see 3/4 of the universe. You don't believe me? Well, the North Star is up here. I can point to at this, so I know exactly where I am. So North Star is up here. North Star is up here. Now you can't see. All you can see is a two-dimensional image here, right? But as you turn around, you'll be able to see. I'm not pointing exactly 180 degrees here. At a certain point in time, the North Star is always fixed, and Orion's belt is right where I'm pointing here. Now I know, according to modern science, Orion's belt is located close enough to the equator, directly above the equator. So if I can see it so fucking easily, just above, over my neighbor's house over there, and I can see North Star so easily, I can see the same degree easily the other side, and I'm at fucking ground level, 30 degrees above. So that's already half of the Earth I can see encompassed within my view. And I can see beyond that. I can see well beyond that on both sides. The universe is small. Now, I've decoded lots of things, friends. I've decoded Einstein, and more particularly, Einstein killed the ether. What ether did he kill? The luminiferous ether. Well, the luminiferous ether, it turns out, was associated with the spinning ball Earth, the greater extension to heliocentrism, and the central sun, and the greater planetary orbits going in place within the greater, well, it wasn't known at the time, greater galactic setting. They placed all the stars on a sort of a glass sphere, unknowable beyond that, the wiggly lines. But yeah, when it came to the spinning ball Earth, Mrs. Morley, whatever the debate was, the ultimate debate turned out to be whether the Earth was in motion or not. Whether the Earth was in motion or not. But what was established between the both of them was that the Earth was a ball. So this is the decoding. I could go into the decoding of Einstein and, well, space-time. Space-time is ultimately metaphor for ether, which is what generates our space, which creates the barrier between us and what's beyond, which is obviously water, obviously more particularly saline water. It's all construct, remember, we're just venturing into a material game or a venture. Yeah, we're venturing into a venture, an adventure. But ultimately, ether, right? Ether creates the barrier. Luminiferous ether was associated with this old way of thinking, which was associated with the ball, or which came first. Answer me this, friends. I shouldn't be getting angry now. I'm so used to talking to people, but none of those people can answer me, and they're the best that the ball has to offer. They're the best that history has to offer. None of them can answer me, but I will ask you a question to ask yourself. Which came first? Anyone here, or anyone anywhere who's listening, which came first? Putting yourself in the mind of the greatest thinker in history, which you're capable of. You do anything a million times, you can do it better than anyone else. Which came first? The decision to have the earth moving, or the decision to have the earth as a ball? It's a very pertinent question. And I'm telling you now, consider it. How pertinent is it? Well, it's beyond Einstein. Einstein is already debunked easily. It's beyond Einstein. That's what I'm saying. Einstein, Mitchison, Morley, they already agreed, as a clue for you, they already agreed that the earth was a ball. Whether the ball was in motion or not, it's a different matter. It's all metaphor. Well, what are you going to make of it? I took a beeline through ether there, because of course Einstein did kill the ether as associated with his explanations for the Mitchison-Morley results. If you don't know what Mitchison-Morley was about, don't worry about it too much. But it's basically to decide whether, back to the luminiferous ether. So my decoding of that is this. Of course, none of this is true. These are all characters. This is all story, contrast for us to decode what actually might be going on. Luminiferous ether applies to the medium, the static, stationary medium of the universe, which it's almost like not space. It's like the thing that space is being generated into. I guess there has to be qualifications to that. But in terms of the time of Einstein, anyway, they thought that there was only a static universe in play, and the universe was only sort of galactic level, if you want. So, all bollocks, of course. It's all stupid shit. Anyway, that's the picture they were presented. That's why what we read about the picture that they were presented with, or they were trying to delve into. But luminiferous ether at the time was, yes, this greater static setting, which the ball, Earth, the sun, and roughly given the sizes and dimensions that we're offered now, was moving within. So it was creating this stir within the stationary ether. Now, to decode that, because it's all a load of bollocks, everything is flipped on its head in a flat Earth setting. The ether is the pervading medium, which is in motion and it is confined as well. It's absolutely opposing to the old presentation. So do you get it? Do you get it somewhat? Do you get it somewhat? Do you get it somewhat? Why don't you trust yourself? Why don't you trust yourself? Can you imagine how great friends myself and my Steve would be? My Steve is 20 now. Can you imagine how great friends would be? But I'm glad, in a sense, for his sake, I haven't been in contact with him. What I'm saying now goes against the very core of what he's involved in. And he's studying physics in university. And he's living a different, separate life than what I know anything about. And he's only down the road. My consolation from God, he's a 20. He's only 20. Our memories last forever. But I feel I have to do something pretty shortly, but he's still only 20. And life has been compressed for the youth. We're growing up at an ever accelerated rate. Who, according to who? Well, according to God. According to us, we have our own experiences, our own story to lay out. But that was, what was that riddled with? That was riddled with falsity. That was riddled with lies. That was riddled with misconceptions. That was riddled with misunderstandings. We don't still know who we are. Tell me, who are you? Who are you? You can't answer me. I can tell you, you're wonderful. Why would you not be? There's two possibilities. Everything matters or nothing matters. There's no in between. There's no in between. If you're going to judge yourself where you're at now, then you're denying yourself. You're a ball earther. You're a ball earther. You think people in Australia are upside down, dickhead. You already know that they're upside down, but yet you think you, so you fool yourself into thinking that they are. So that's the basis, the foundation of your reality. Who you're fooling. Mozart is, I'm going to try to get to more. I don't pay attention to much things. I don't pay attention to any news, really. I don't pay attention to any decoding of the news that's given out. Not much, anyway. I shout out Tim Osman, my friend Tim. I love Tim. I was talking to Lemon Bird earlier on as well. We had a little bit of a heated exchange. I love Lemon Bird as well. And Jem Panda was there. I love Jem Panda. And lots of other people as well. But when it comes to this level of interaction, I guess, we're at the top of the pile. If you don't know the Earth is flat, well, you've only been encouraged from the start to think it, but especially over the last 6 or 7 years. If you don't know all of the different media hoaxes, if you don't know Corona was a hoax, well, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? You could die ignorant, but when you do die, are you going to say to yourself, "Well, it's not as if I wasn't aware, I wasn't sharp," you know? Yeah, what excuse are you going to make when the clues are everywhere? But yeah, within the specialized arena, there are definitely clue givers in a different way. So yeah, we got to gauge yourselves. You as a female, you represent Eve. There's no distinction between Adam and Eve. It's just that there's a different focus of attention. The woman is more weighted down. Oh, well, it's a duality in a sense. What I mean, okay, why I paused there was to say that if we think of ourselves as half of the story, we combine our other half in all different, in the best way you can imagine. Why do we separate this, right? So the male is predominant in the lower area when it comes to the spinal fluid. There's a branching off for the female at the breast, but a male still has breasts of the lower aspect. A female has a lesser aspect, but a female has um, testicles of an inverted aspect, but there is still a flow, but it's just a lesser or a greater flow. So when you combine the two, I'll ask you to picture a Baphomet. And I haven't been let into any greater secrets or anything like that. It's just that I sort of come to appreciate that when we have a balance between everything. How does there's a duality in play? Well, the male, so the male is also top heavy, immaterially, logically inclined, where the female is more grounded. So we have the more grounded aspect then of the female in terms of the carrying of the child. So you have this sort of up and down, in and out balance, and round balance. So I think that's what the Baphomet represents ultimately. We are the Baphomet. But where does that take us? Where does that take us? Up knows. Up knows where that takes us. I don't know where that takes us. But at least it takes us somewhere into understanding that we are of a different composition ultimately than what we find ourselves in the midst of at the minute. But is it outside of our hands? I'm trying to say more and more, don't let it be outside of your hands. How could it be? When we leave this experience, who are we supposed to trust then? There could be an infinite number of devils trying to tempt us away from the true light. We've got to get to know ourselves in this realm. And I will state definitively, and I know it, and I swear to you, my friends, and I don't swear generally or often, but I swear to you, my friends, I know that we are as special. We are as special. And that greater ultimate truth is within all of us. Say, how do you know this, Pete? I'm just in my own mind referring just to back to some of the occurrences today when I was busking and just some of the children that I was looking at and who continued to look at me and smile at me in passing. I can't explain that to you. But yes, there is something as special within us so we can spite all temptation. And when it comes to final determination, what did Jesus tell us? Know thyself. So you have that truth, you have that light, with the true light within ourselves. The false light is the visible light, friends. I'm actually going to say that. Rain is more associated with night. Look, it's night now, or more inclement, darker conditions. I think, in a sense, they're the more natural conditions. The sun is the imposition. Sun is the interposer. It's an invader. It's a variant. It's an agitator. It's an aggressor. Yeah. So, as science, people of science, the sun is the giver of life. Is the sun the giver of death? Go forth and multiply, or go forth and divide. It's a good question. It's a good question. Don't sell yourself short is all I can say. What else can I say? How many of you here do I know? Don't sell yourself short. And if you do, who are you going to sell yourself short to? At the end of the day, all coins are counted. When the metal of your medal is evaluated. That's a good one. Because, of course, with the Olympics, you win a bronze, silver, and a gold. I was actually thinking about this. These are all, I was thinking about this, let me think about the context I was thinking about today. These are all products of the earth, isn't it? These different valued and evaluated metals. But what if the earth was, remember I mentioned it the last time, imagine if reality was a beautiful, wondrous clockwork mechanism. And that was the beauty in its whole, in its entirety. And then it was smashed up. It was smashed up. And then you had all the different evaluations based on the different component parts. And some was selling off of people evaluated, or there was powers in play which sold on or gave the impression that these different component parts were of the true value. It was a good analogy. I should develop that a little bit more. It's probably, I didn't do a great job on that. But I think that's probably equivalent to what's going on. All the prep. Would you believe I asked the jeweler as we were walking home, as I was walking home, not we were walking home. I said, "Did you hear the earth was flat?" And he said, "Well, I didn't hear that." And I said, "Grand," but I was going to ask him because he deals in all of these precious metals, and I was going to ask him just what I was talking about there. Have you considered that maybe all these precious metals are coming from a destroyed former state of something? but that wouldn't have done, I guess. But I was thinking it, and I said, yeah, we left. It was only a brief encounter, and I said, I hope you don't think it was bothering me. He said, no, not at all. But yeah, he knows the idea of the earth is flat. And actually, another story. I was going over to the shop this morning for some eggs across the road. I live in the high road here, just off the high road. Would you believe? You take the high road, I take the low road, and yeah, I'm nice to everyone. Everyone's generally nice to me, and they know that I'm persistent in my expression anyway. But as I was walking out, a little boy just walked out. As I was walking in, a little boy just walked out. When I say little boy, maybe 9, 10, something like that, and his sister or something. And he's didn't think any more of it. Just walked in, said, "How you doing?" Just walked in. He said, "Hey, the Earth is flat." And I looked around and I said, "Hey, how did you know that? How did you know that?" He smiled. I didn't recognize him from anywhere, but I think to myself, I must have said that to him in the past. And I was wondering to myself, well, I wonder, did he look up more about the possibility that the Earth is flat or not? But he definitely recognized me from saying it at some point in the past. I guess there isn't too many people like me saying the Earth is flat. I fucking said the Earth is flat in the court during the week, friends. I also told the judge. I told the judge a few things. I told her that as far as I'm concerned, the legal name fraud is exposed and all contracts are null and void. You can believe me. You can believe me. I'm telling you the truth. And I also said another thing. They needed my name. They needed my name, and before they would consent to bailing me out, the fucking dickhead of a cop. What am I supposed to do with him? What would I do as a child of God? What would I do? Would I forgive him? Would I sue him? Would I teach him a lesson? I don't know what to do here, but anyway, I said a few things, and one of the other things I said the Earth is flat as well. I said the legal name fraud was exposed, and it wasn't as if I was listing these things out. I was just speaking naturally, openly, because I knew in a sense I was the highest authority in that court. And there's another story leading on to it actually, but they needed my name, and more so than they had the name already, but they needed an address and me to consent to an address. And I said, how can I consent to an address? I live in my body. If you must have a name, and if I'm unless I give this an address, can it not be released? Because I remember I was rearrested by surprise because I thought the case was dropped. I went through this last time, but dickheads fucking setting me up again for nothing in the first place. But anyway, yeah, unless you sign that, you're going to be put it back up in the same situation. And I was going, well, I already wanted to fucking appear in the court the last time because I would have made a show of them all. So I said, well, okay, I live in my body. There's a family home. If you want my mother's home abode address, that's what it is. So that's all they're looking to trick you. They're looking to make money out of you. Every one of those people in that court, outside of the people who are here in the defense, were making money for their time. So what did I get onto? Oh yeah, just to say that I did say, and I said a few other things as well in that court. I'm a free man, I said. I'm a free man, and this is all, I signed it PSUD, and because if I didn't sign it, well, it was back up in Limerick prison, and the only reason I got out the last time is because I signed. Now, this time, I can take this anywhere. I can write fucking songs about this. I can go to the press. This is a massive story, and I'm wondering what to do. This particular guy is after having me incarcerated twice, and his name is Paul Barrett. Look him up. If you're interested, look him up. Paul Barrett, Limerick Garda station. He's from Limerick, but he knows that they arrested me on the basis of not giving the legal name, and now he's swearing and testifying that I was drunk and disorderly and then refused to give the name. So I'm not vindictive or vicious about these things, but I got a lot of time to think about it. The case comes up on April 12th, 2023. I can rule the case out immediately by what I know, but I wonder what I'll do in the meantime. I can approach the national papers here, or maybe give a few offers to the greater story to a few papers here and there. We'll see how it turns out. We'll take a break. I'll come back and sing a song, and I'll put the link in chat then. Well, let me tell you. Let me tell you the answer to my answer anyway to Einstein ultimate decoding. Okay, where's my plectrum now? It's the same plectrum. Okay. I'm a dickhead now. There's a plectrum, you know, like there's a sock monster around. There's a plectrum monster around as well. In fucking cahoots with the sock monster. Because just as the way you lose socks regularly and you have no fucking idea, you start looking in the freezer for where's the fucking sock gone? It's like when you lose your keys, you ever look in the look underneath the oven or look in ridiculous places where your keys would never be. It's the same thing when you're desperate for it. When you, where's my fucking sock gone? It's the same thing with a plectrum. Now I'm sure it was there a second ago. I'm sure it was the day before I went out. And I'm not blaming the sock monster. I don't hate you. Just come on. Just give it back to me. Start looking in ridiculous places then for the plectrum. You can't find it. Anyone who's a guitarist here or whoever wears socks will be able to understand what I'm talking about. I must have left it inside. See, here we go now. Fucking hell. We're going now. I don't like this now. I'm sorry you're catching this on air. But remember I said you start looking in ridiculous places. Fucking not there. And I can't play the guitar with you. Sorry, hello. That's Snow Bear, by the way. I didn't mean to expose his arse there, but where do you look? Where do you look? It's a plectrum, a pick monster. A plectrum, if you don't know what a pick is, over the years, fucking gorging on me. Gorging. Just fucking. Anyway. Fucking feast. Yeah. Anyway, I guess I have to strum it out. Okay. I have the song in mind anyway, but it's a little wide, thin. I have another plectrum here. I know that's there, but it's a little wide, thin plectrum. So let's less sort of less weight intensity. And you know what? I probably have it in my pocket. If I do, I'm going to give myself a slap. What a fucking asshole. I had it in my pocket all along. It's usually the way it turns out, isn't it? I bet we can all relate to that. Looking for your keys everywhere. Every fucking where. You can't find them. What's going on? Jesus. You're digging up floorboards. You're fucking looking behind paintings on the wall in your house. You're looking in your socks. And suddenly it turns up on your table again. You know it's happened to all of us, but at least I found it now. Let me tune up. I apologize to my snow bear friend inside. I didn't mean to be so invasive. Although I don't know what I was looking for. He didn't seem to have an ass, so I don't know what I was hoping to find. But it shows the point, doesn't it? You start looking in the most ridiculous places. I'm looking in the arse of a bear who doesn't have an arse for a plectrum, and I can't locate. That's fucking mad. Told you we live in a mad world. Well, isn't that great now? My guitar is it's grand. It's not too bad, but there's definitely a crack when the head fell. It's not shaking too much, but you can see a crack all the way across. And you can't feel it. Or you're starting to feel it a little more now. So it's looking out of tune a little bit quicker. But I think on the basis of me just saying it's a mad world, how about this? All around me are familiar faces, worn out places, worn out faces, bright enough for the daily race, going nowhere, going nowhere. Their tears are flooding out their glasses. No expression, no expression. Hold my head out, drown my sorrows. No tomorrow, no tomorrow. I'm kind of funny. I find it kind of sad. The dreams in which I'm dying are the best I've ever had. I find it hard to tell you. I find it hard to take. Some people walk in circles. It's a very, very mad world. walk in circles, it's a very, very say mad I find it kind of fun. I find it kind of sad. The dreams in which I'm gone, the best I've ever had. I find it hard to tell if I'm lying to take. Some people walk in circles, it's a very, very bad world. It's a mad world. It's a I reckon, friend, a mad world where everything is topsy turvy, a little bit upside down. Uh, Let me post a link to Reese and maybe Johnny B as well. That'd be cool. And if they join, excellent. Let's keep it going for another hour or so, anyway, an hour and a half, or whatever. If they don't join, that's okay as well. I'll put the link out, of course, and let me just. Okay. Uh, Now, let me post the main link here in the chat. Anyone wants to join, but yeah, let's not have any bullshit as well. I could talk about lots of things for Dave. Hang on, David, Gadget Inspector. There's a link in chat. Hopefully, we'll have a few contributors. Yeah, as I said, flat Earth and beyond, right? Flat Earth and beyond. I think our zero time is precious, so don't waste each other's time. I'm not speaking to you here, David, but just in general. The last time was not a particularly good. I'm not going to say that. Jed more so was like, you know you're dealing with a bluffer, so what are you going to do? Yeah, there's a time and place, but yeah, let's not bluff around. So no one is impelled or forced to join tonight. And what time is that? 12, actually. Yeah, but if you do, yeah, let's have a good conversation. But I haven't looked into the chat or two. I was just thinking of, would you believe 2.88 mile mushroom? I was thinking about you tonight, but I was it today sometime. Just in a fleeting sense, I swear to you. Or was it yesterday? It could have been yesterday or today. I was thinking about you recently anyway. I said, why I haven't heard from him in a while. And, time passes so quickly. I wouldn't even remember, not that it would take time to remember some of the different acquaintances from the past and what they have to say. I wonder where you've come at this point. I think you joined in chat before. Get your arse in here, 2.88 mile mushroom. Piss off out of it. Jump in. Well, and I promise not to be too grilling on anyone, but at the same time, if you're willing to speak openly and honestly, get your arse in here because we're in one sense at the very pinnacle. We're at the K2, making our way towards Ever ST, right? ever ST. Einstein is one stone. So one ST, one. We got to work out what the ST is. Remember I said, or left or right brain. Your right brain controls your left eye. Did you know that? That's how quick the transition takes place. And then it widens out as you go down. And it widens out as you go down with this emanation, representation of, yourself, divided self. But nice one. Good to see you. And I haven't seen you in a while, Dave, outside of my own channel here. But I'm not sure if you're still active on, was it Geo's we met? I got banned from there, of course, on the back of Brenda. But I guess I probably didn't belong there as well. I'm happy to be back in Gem Panda's channel in the Humans of Earth. Just to have an outlet to talk, but by goodness, is it frustrating? It's frustration everywhere, and needs must, I guess. I'd love to hear what people think of my decoding of Einstein, because once again, I haven't heard it from anyone else on this earth. Anyone else, and I stick to it. Remember, I asked you the question earlier on, in your own mind, the greatest mind there is, what came first in the mind of man? The decision to have the earth moving, which goes against our experience, or to have the earth flat. And then movement of the earth comes afterwards. Think about it, break it down, and let any man answer, because I'll tell you something for nothing. None of the ball earthers can answer, and that means none of the great minds of science in this current age. Michio Kaku, many of you know Michio Kaku. Well, Gadget Inspector, hello Dave, you're coming in straight away. Come on me.
Come to talk to.
Tommy Gama.
Yeah, how you shake on about tonight?
Right, David, how you doing, bud?
I'm good. Can you hear me well or what? What's the sound like?
Your sound is coming through grand, as far as I can hear anyway.
So what are you talking about tonight, Pete?
Well, fucking hell. Well, first of all, let me introduce you. You are, just to the anyone who might be listening and come back, but you're an Irishman.
There's five people. There's five people watching.
And you are you're here to chat. You've been in this arena a long while, and you have a broad sort of knowledge or grasp on many different topics. And I love your screen name as well, by the way, which is a play on Inspector Gadget, right?
The little Inspector Gadget.
We grew up with that shit, didn't we, Dave? Oh, not that shit. That was great stuff.
We did indeed. Yeah.
Where are you at now, Dave? What are you still over at Geo's now, or where do you contribute regularly?
I go out to Try Thinking, Bev.
You do what?
Try Thinking channel.
What does that mean?
Do you know Bev?
Oh, no, you do not.
Yes, great channel.
Okay, I have had my run-ins with Bev. I'm at the window here, actually. Maybe I should move my...
Yeah, I'd say you did you?
Of course I did, bud. Of course I did.
I know, Bev is cool. Bev is
Okay,
cool.
well, I don't mean to. What's your experiences with Bev then? What's the extent of which you go beyond? Well, I guess the obvious. Horizontal is horizontal, but I
Yeah,
mean,
the geometry. You learn all about geometry and what's real and reality. That's what I'm learning. Well, I'm not learning. We see it, but we just talk about it. We're not flat earthers, you know. Well, everybody calls us flat earthers.
well, you know, yeah, he doesn't like to be called that, right?
No, well, we all don't, and you know, we just have a crack over there. So much fun. Lots of nice people. A lot of old Brandon's crowd. Remember Brandon's? A lot of them are in there
I
now.
do, of course. I do, of
Yeah,
course.
a lot of good people.
Well, the problem I have is,
Yeah, come on. Tell us your problem with Bev. Come on.
I'm not telling my problem. I might be more of a problem with you, David. Actually, that you haven't seen the limitations of that.
What do you mean? Come on, tell me.
What do I mean by that? I told you I had my
Yeah.
run-ins with Bev before. None of these characters like me because they like to stick to a certain point, which is an obvious point, really. It's like they have an educational principle or a pillar to stand upon, and they'll preach from that pillar, but they won't go beyond it. Now, if they're going to claim to be honest men in this endeavor, David, that's one thing. If they're going to be, I don't hate any of these characters. They're all beautiful characters, but I recognize their limitations. I have done years ago.
Yeah, we don't really talk about much over there. We
I
just
know.
talk about we just talk about straight lines. You know.
What the fuck? What the fuck is that about, though? You already knew what a straight line was when you were knee high Garsoon to a
Yeah,
grasshopper.
it's the shortest point between. It's the shortest distance between 2 points.
Well, okay. How long have you been up there?
Yeah, well, that's good. That's what we've been talking about for the last 2 years.
Well,
And you know what? Do you know
go
what?
on, yeah. Go on, yeah.
Everybody loves you over there. Right? You'd be
Well, I
awful.
love everyone as well.
We
That's great.
talk
There's only
about
so much
Pete
time
Shea
around.
sometimes. We talk about Pete Shea's over there in chat sometimes, and you should come over. Probably not in the voice chat, but over in the chat sometimes to see us and have
I'll
a
be
crack.
banned straight away, bud.
You wouldn't.
I'll
I'm
be
a
banned
mod
straight
over
away.
there. Not in chat, probably in voice chat you would, but not on the chat.
Yeah, but I have no interest in that then, right?
Anyway.
The only point is, I think here's the restriction I've come to learn anyway, Dave.
No, sorry.
How far can you? Okay, here's a good point. How far can you extend your sort of faith in a straight line? If I said point a straight line upwards, in reality, how far could you say? Well, I know I'm definitely pointing in a straight line if there's no target in play. You know what I mean? You're just pointing up to the sky.
Yeah. It would go infinity, wouldn't it? A straight line. If you knew it was straight.
You wouldn't be able to determine it, though, would you? Unless you had more information.
Yeah, 2 points.
And of course, we say something is different. What do you say that is okay? What do you say that that replaces the vacuum of space, the empty vacuum of space? Do you say that you don't go there? Do you say that there's something definitive, or what's your position?
I don't know, Pete. I don't know what's up there.
You've no guesses on it.
I've
guesses.
I've no model. I don't know what's up there. You can't go there, and I certainly don't believe what they're telling me that's up there. All I see is lights in the sky. I don't know what they are.
Now, where does that leave you then, man?
I don't know. This is the thing. This is the questions. This is the journey I'm going through. But I certainly do know that the Earth is not a spinning cannonball going around the fucking sun.
What if it was, bud? What if it was in a different sense, though? What if it was? If you ask me now, and the two Irishmen speaking here, two proud Irishmen speaking, two kings of Era, right, Dave?
Kings of Era, yeah.
Ireland is the land of the division, but Era is the whole unified land, and we are all the highest authorities on this flat land, whatever it may entail. We are given dominion because there's no one else who stakes that claim over us. All of the rest of the ones or the powers that say they're in play, they stake a claim or they stake take an oath to us to serve us. You know what I mean? So,
Absolutely.
so
Mm.
we do find ourselves in a certain setting. I would say immediately, and that's why I asked earlier on. Please, anyone come in and tell me what they're working on, what bigger questions they're working on. My best guess would be waters beyond. It has to be in a sense, because we have so much percentage of the earth covered in water, saline waters more specifically.
71%.
So,
Yeah.
but it's not about anyone. It's about sharing ideas. You know what I mean? And we never know where we're going to learn our next clue. And if something rings true with you, according to your own sort of research history and your own being as well, the questions you ask yourself of yourself, well, then so be it. As long as as I'm speaking from I dare not tell a lie, not because I'm dying to tell a lie. I just don't want to tell a lie. You know what I
Mm.
mean? But it's not about you accepting anyone else's word for anything at this latter stage. It's about you formulating your own picture. And I'm not saying that I have my own picture in a sense. I'm not saying it's right or I'm not saying it's fucking anything, but that there's definitely a picture there to be formulated. Is not it can't it's not in doubt. You know what I mean?
Mm.
The people who gave us the fucking lie, the people who gave us such intricate, developed lie, they knew the truth to begin with. That's the only way they could. It's like looking at a model and painting a picture in reverse. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
You're basing the beautiful picture, and you're distorting it. Actually, that brings to mind. Remember the picture of Dorian Gray from Oscar Wilde?
Yes.
Yeah, in sort of opposition. But we haven't spoken very often, Dave. I hope you're well, bud. And
Yeah. So come here, Pete. I'm going to throw your question right
come on.
back at you. What do you think? What do you think that's up there?
I think it's waters beyond, but I think it's
What?
saline waters, and I think there's an energy holding it back, like a fart in the bathtub. Think about a
Mm.
fart in the bathtub, but just
Yeah.
taking a still shot of it. So you
Yeah.
have this exertion, and it creates a void within a greater surround. But I ultimately think it's a construct. We are greater. It's a dream in a sense. We are greater than the material. So we've been immersed in this division. So
Mm.
anyway, I can think of it. Honest to God, I mean, what's the alternative? You have the religious alternative,
Mm.
which is the Bible literalists when we come to flat Earth and beyond. You have the scientific story, which you've already rejected. Do you know what I mean? Which is
Yeah.
that everything came from nothing, which is obviously bullshit. And all the base. Actually, I've been asking a question, Dave, to all these are the top ball earthers on Earth, and none of them can answer me to give one demonstration of any one of the basic foundational principles upon which their worldview is based, which is the spinning ball Earth worldview. And
Yeah.
it's so difficult for them. And I maintain that every single thing that we're asked to believe we cannot experience.
Yeah.
Isn't it funny? Isn't it
I
funny?
always ask. I call the big ballers. I call the big ballers. They're the Globe Council.
Right. Well, they know what they're doing, though. You know what I mean? But
And
the only way we can challenge these people is intellectually. So if their determinism or scientific sort of faith is so strong, they should easily be able to rattle off like that, because there's so many different aspects. Remember, let me just answer the question as well, or reiterate the question and give you the answer, which is what I posed earlier on, which was which came first. And actually, were you here when I said which came first in the mind of man? Was it the decision to have the earth moving, or to have the earth a ball?
yeah, I love
You-
them. I love them when I pose questions to the Globe Council. I call them the Globe Council. Which came first? I love them questions. My
Yeah,
question to the Globe Council every time is: you brought up the Big Bang there a few seconds ago. The Big Bang. So we have the Big Bang. So my question to them is: which came first, gravity or mass? You can't have one without the other, right? So one of them had to
yeah.
go. It's like the chicken and the egg. You know where I'm coming from?
I do, of course. There's no correct answer, and you know their answer, their get out
They don't
is
know. They don't
yeah,
know.
but they say we have nothing to say about what happened before that zero moment. You know what I mean? They,
Yeah.
they, they say that we can describe exactly what happened infinitesimal division of a second after the Big Bang, but they have nothing to say about what happened at the point or just before or before it, not just before it. And this is where they always leave room for God. But the thing is, Dave, they're playing a part. These people knew the Earth as we know the Earth to be flat and stationary
Yeah.
before we did. And I know many of those going back 6 or 7 years at this stage.
Yeah.
And I
7
know
years.
that. You know what
Going
I
on
mean?
8 years now. I think we're 9 years nearly. I think now. Pete.
Well, more, yeah. Well, more than that, I know curved water in one form or another, according to him, when he was back, anti-conspiracy guy on a Above Top Secret back in 2012. But
Uh,
I mentioned already earlier on Jem Panda's channel that Mark Sargent did his first interview on Fakeologist Radio when we were talking about Flat Earth in 2013, 14.
I wouldn't go in that channel anymore. It's a cesspit in there, James' channel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, of course it's a cesspit. I was there tonight. You got to know where you're going, though. You know what I mean?
Did you ever go into Earth Awakenings? That's a better channel.
Oh,
Better
I'm
channel
banned
for
from
you.
there.
Huh?
I'm barred from there. Banned from
I
there.
did banned from there, eh?
For suggesting from Brenda. Brenda's fucking fault. Hey, do you notice the? Hey, Dave, do you notice the?
Oh yeah. I can see where I live, where I'm from. Skerries, on the east coast there, yeah? Can you see it? Yeah. Where are you? Where are you there? Oh, you're in, yeah. Limerick.
Yeah.
Good man.
Well, here, take this down. But that's era, you see. See
Yeah,
the way they
that's
have
there.
it painted in the
Yeah.
and I'm not a staunch nationalist or anything like that. But I'm a flat earther, Dave. But you see the way I have it painted in pink. This is the ire. This is the ire to divide. But the whole lot. This is the republic then of era, right? It's the separation. But this is the Ireland, yeah. But era. When you paint it all the same color, this is era. EIRE. This is the whole of the unity. And I think what's playing out symbolically is playing out through the history of Ireland in a sense. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's a teddy bear.
But yeah, I declare myself king of era, Dave. I don't mind doing that. And it's not in any, what do you call it? Not in any pompous sense, but it's just that we all are on a fucking flat and stationary Earth surface. Our existence entails something absolutely different from.
I wouldn't call it flat.
We're all the highest authority.
I wouldn't call it flat.
No, it's not flat. Of course, it's not.
You have valleys and hills and mountains. It's level. It's a level earth.
Well, it's not quite level as well, though, bud.
Well, water is level.
No, it's not. Sorry to tell you. You brought this up in Gem Pandas tonight. What if I could prove to you that water, and you could prove to yourself, I could show you a way that you could prove to yourself that water is not level, or that at least it can be curved and level at the same time. Would you believe me?
But it seeks its own level, yeah. It seeks its level all the time. Because you have waves and currents and that water the sea's never level. Because you have waves.
Yes, but the point is that we are in a reality we're trying to decode. So we have a local experience of water. What I'm getting at is how you can prove to yourself so easily that water can be level and curved at the same time.
Yeah.
Fill up your sink with water, Dave.
Yeah.
Fill up your sink with water. Take a deep breath. Go down over it and just blow gently on the surface of the water. You will get an indentation, which will remain consistent depending on the consistency of your breath. And the rest of the water will try to retain, of course, its levelness. Because there's no resistance, right? But it's the imposition of your breath or your addition. The imposition of your addition will create those circumstances. And life, or the realm we're in, everything is in constant motion or agitation. There's no doubt about it.
But the water's not in the ball. We can agree with that. It's not curving around the ball.
I think it is in a way.
Is it?
Well, if you think about Mark Sargent, what he had to say, right? So we have a flat Earth and a globe, a snow globe, sort of hemispherical
Yeah.
enclosure. If we have an energy forcing the water like a fountain, Dave, and
Yeah.
we forcing the water back, then the water beyond is adhering to a contoured surface based on the influence of, well, life itself in that way. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
If that was the reality, imagine we were in full possession of the reality, and it was something along those lines. Then everything the baller says, in a sense, is true. You know what I mean? It just
Yeah.
depends on what aspect or what way we're looking at it from. I think
Yeah.
this is the trickery of the words and the language and our understanding. So water can be curved, and indeed, water, Dave. When we get to the north,
Well, you can do anything with water, Pete. You can do anything with water. Like if I piss over the neighbour's fence, the water is cold. But water always struggles to find its own level. Do you agree with me with that?
yes, of course I do. Of course I do. Absolutely, God.
So if we know water is always in motion, the seas, the oceans, the tides, it's in motion, so it would never be level.
Yeah, but it is what it is. So on the greater aspect, it is what it is. So reality is what it is. If water is always in motion, then we have to come to some sort of terms on the cause or the origin of that motion. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
but
I of course agree with you, Bud. By logical necessity, water has to be flat. The earth has to be an expanded horizontal surface based on our knowledge of water. But how far does that take us towards an understanding of the greater nature of Earth?
yeah. So
Which I
you
think is
believe so you believe there's a dome over us and it's like a fountain, it's spitting down water back at us.
well, the water, yes, the water is the ether. The energy is disassociating the water beyond, which is the saline water. So it breaks it into its fresh water and its saline aspects. I believe all the clouds are soil particulate. So when they chemtrail the clouds, right? I no longer fear. I welcome chemtrails now, Dave. The sun is increasing in intensity,
Yeah.
and I think this is all a solar management program. But I think that the clouds themselves are this soil particulate, and it's this salt that absorbs the water particulate that when the
Yeah.
sun comes around and evaporates it. So yeah, I do
I,
believe
I,
that.
I, that's an old conspiracy, the chemtrails. I never really looked into it, but there's a lot of new stuff coming up about the chemtrails, and
What do you mean you never looked into it?
no, because I don't know. It's
Don't
probably.
give me that bollocks. Come on,
Do you think they're spraying us with some
come
shit?
on now. Tell me what the general Chad is over in Bev's. Then what is chemtrails not allowed to be mentioned?
No, no. I'm just saying, in my personal opinion, I never really looked into it, but probably
So
they do.
you never saw the trails in your own local sky.
I did, yeah, I seen the trails, but I always thought of them as. I heard about the conspiracy chemtrails and that, but I never really looked into it. But do you think they're spraying us with shit or doing something like them?
I know they're doing something.
Yeah,
I know they're doing something, but I don't think they're killing us with their spray. What they're doing is a solar management program. The sun has increased in frequency, but that you say you've never looked into it. This is conspiracy sort of thinking 101, Dave, and you're definitely no spring chicken to all of
I
this,
know.
right?
I didn't have time, Pete. I didn't have time to look into it, but I'm going to look into it. But I don't want to.
Well, someday you might have all the time in the world.
In the world, yeah. Yeah, well, not all the airplanes are spraying us. When you see them chemtrails, like a lot of it's water vapor as well, no?
Well,
But it's funny because some days you see the chemtrails and they disappear straight away. But other days they last for ages. Would they be the products for spraying the sky with? The ones that linger? Or is it the
I
ones
don't.
that disappear straight away?
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't live on a. I don't. I think one is sort of an activator as well. We don't live. I live in Limerick here. We don't. Well, I'll show you again.
But Limerick, you get a lot of traffic.
Shannon's over here. Look, Shannon's
Shannon
over
Airport.
here. When you
Shannon
get flights
Airport.
from Dublin or international flights, they fly around Limerick. When we get spraying days, you have fucking plane after plane after plane,
Yeah.
leaving these long trails in the sky. I know what it's about. What happens generally the next day or the day after is this inclement weather. So what it is sort of electrical attractor. You heard of cymatics, right? So when you put soil particulate or sand particulate, any particulate on a vibrating surface, when you increase the frequency, these different patterns will sort of formulate, which will appear to be regular and wondrous patterns as well. The salt is the thing that vibrates within the sky. It's what reacts to the sun. You know the sun. Hey, Dave, you might want to go here, but what about this question? What about this statement to you? The sun is not hot. What about that? You know you've heard that before. What do you think about that? What would you say to that?
The sun is not hot.
Sun is not hot. Yeah.
Well,
the sun is not hot. Yeah.
Well, how come? The way I would answer that is, how come when the sun is up we feel the heat? When we see the sun, we feel the heat. At night time we don't feel the heat of the sun, but when we see the sun, we can feel the heat. I know in the summertime you can't even see the sun. Like it's 6 o'clock in the morning before the sun comes up, you can already feel the heat of the sun. But during the day when the sun is up, you can go out to the sunshine, into the sun, and feel the heat. Yeah, you feel heat. But at night time, you don't feel the heat. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do. But
so,
yeah.
So I'm not saying like something is giving us heat when we see the sun. So what is it?
It's a frequency. It's a frequency, and what we are experiencing as heat from the sun and light is interaction between the source energies, which is a frequency reflection, interacting with the intervening atmosphere, which is fundamentally water. If we think about when the sun goes away, just as you talked about at nighttime, we don't feel the heat anymore. Well, neither does the water vapor. And what does that rest as? The dew on the ground. When the sun comes back around again, then it's bombarded with these frequencies. That's why I mentioned cymatics. But yeah, it bombarded again, and visible light and heat emanates. But the sun itself is not hot, because if it was, as we rose higher in our hot air balloon or in our helium balloon or whatever, or to the high top of a mountain, we'd need less clothes as opposed to more clothes. Yeah. But it's just because there's less atmosphere up there, there's less penetration powers, or it just reacts a different way. Maybe we haven't. Okay, I have different thoughts on that, but you get the point.
There's not less atmosphere up there. It's thinner. The same amount of atmosphere, but it's thinner. It's all very complicated, Pete, isn't it?
It's not complicated.
I've
been talking about this stuff for years. It's not complicated. I want to get to the best place I can get with my next level of thinking, Dave. That's why I want to chat. I'm a bit off screen here. That's why I want to get you to go where is it? If the atmosphere is thinner, so you're saying it's made of, well, it can't be made of. So the atmosphere at ground level is, we're given the figures in school, right? It's 70% nitrogen, 28% oxygen, a certain percentage of carbon dioxide, and a few noble gases, and then water vapor is about 0.3%. Now, as we move higher, are you saying that it retains its integrity, the atmosphere, but it's just a sort of diluted down? It retains the same chemical balance?
Yeah, it's thinner. It thins out. But no way does it go into a vacuum. Because there's another way you can go up on top of the mountain. You have problem breathing.
It does go into a vacuum.
It's not because there's less atmosphere. It's thinner.
It does go into a vacuum. How do you say it can't go in? It does go into a vacuum.
No, because we're in a pressurized system. You can't have a pressurized system next to a vacuum without a container.
Oh, I'm not saying there's no container. Of course there's a container.
Yeah. So So our pressurized system can't be next to a vacuum, as they
Yeah,
call it, the
but
vacuum
here's
of
your
space,
problem.
whatever
Here's your
container.
problem, though. I know this. I know this spiel. Here's your problem. That if we live in a pressurized system, then the greatest pressure should be experienced the closer we get to the container. Like a balloon, when you blow it up, the least pressure will be at the very center of the balloon. If we imagine it all to be consistent, we know we have the rubber end, which is thicker, but generally, the least pressure would be at the very center of the balloon. The greater pressure would be at the extremities, pushing on the walls. As we go up, though, the pressure lessens. So that leaves you in a quandary. You and Bev and Nathan Oakley, and I'm sure you're part of the same crew, Dave, as well. I don't know what you know. We don't really know that you're part of the same crew anyway. So what am I supposed to do?
No,
Pretend?
but I know, but I'm talking about, yeah. I don't know. I don't know. You don't know either. But you're believing in the dome, the waters above. Okay, and I believe that. And I believe that you can't have a pressurized system next to a vacuum without a container. So there has to be something there. But I don't know what it is. I don't have a model. Neither do you. I don't think.
I have a model. Of course, I have a model.
Yeah, but can you prove that model? I like to have a to say
Yeah,
I
but
have a
you haven't even
model.
considered what's beyond. Nathan Oakley says that he meets the world with a whole new level of childlike wonder, and he doesn't consider that. Well, everything that he's come to debunk has been fed to him, and that there's powers in play who don't know the greater nature of this
But
realm.
Pete, this is the difference between me and Oakley and all the other guys. It's I don't have a model, and I know I'm being lied to, and I'm just me. I'll never be able to prove it because I don't have a
All
rocket
right,
ship. I don't have a
that's
rocket ship, but I know that we're not living on a spinning ball. We're not traveling to space. All the globe claims. And
but maybe we are symbolically
hang on,
though.
poor little me on my little planet, my little planet, I nearly said. I'm sitting here and I can't prove anything. So I can't have a model. There might be a dome up there, but I can't prove it. For now, I'm just speculating.
But where does
But
that leave you then, bud?
I don't know. That's the thing. I don't know. But the one thing I know is
Purdue,
we're not on a spinning ball.
Purdue, is that a good is that a good turn of phrase? Purdue, where does that leave you, bud? Purdue lost.
Purdue, I'm lost. Yeah, yeah. So are you, Pete. We're all lost when you think of
How
it
do you
that way.
know? How
We're
do you
all
know who's
lost.
lost?
We are all lost
How do you know that?
because we're all living in the world of sheep, indoctrinated people. The education system is it's not going to stop. Nice. I'm just having to roll up myself here.
Nice one, bud. Of course, I'd roll a big one for both of us if you were here. But since
Uh,
you're not here, I'll roll a big one for myself.
I roll me on. Anyway,
I'd smoke it with you in mind. Well, we are all here, but I think this is what comes back to recognition, right? So you were talking about Japan as a pit of
cesspit.
vipers. Of course it is. They're all fucking obviously desperate. They're desperate people. But um, we're on our own venture here, and I think that what's required of us from ourselves, or at least if you have children, I think you said you had children before. You go into the
Yeah,
details.
I've
But what picture are you going to paint for them of what the earth might be? I think at least in potential, these abilities have been given to us to paint our own picture because we are of a greater source. We know what isn't. So our quest is to find out in as best we can, what are we doing with our mental acumen or what are we doing with our mental time? Otherwise, Dave, we spend all our time in our own brain. But I think ours to come to terms with at least a picture that we can paint for ourselves or some sort of representation,
well,
knowing that we are of a differing source. We are of I'm going to say divine. Are you divine? I already know you're divine, but I mean, do
uh,
you consider yourself divine?
I've always talked about. You heard about Darwin and evolution.
Right.
I don't believe in that shit. I don't believe we came from monkeys or or fish, right? I don't believe in that.
How about fish monkeys? Could we have come from fish
Fish
monkeys?
monkeys.
Monkey fish?
But I do believe in the
How about
human
pigs?
race. Yeah, I do believe in the last whatever 7 or 10 years. There's an evolution in the human race. You've people that can you've people that are sheep and go along with the agenda, and then you have people that have different brains that's that that's the evolution that do the critical thinking. You know what I mean?
Yes, but I do know what
Critical
you mean. I do
thinkers.
know what you mean, but in a sense, evolution, in the sense offered us, is a blind advocate. There's no ultimate goal in it, so it's like, in a limited sense, it can only ever be a temporary sort of advantage. But it's because it's blind. You don't know what's going to happen in 1,000 years' time. And when we think of it in our own 70 short year term, well, 1,000 years in relation to millions and billions of years in the past is
Yeah,
nothing. So nothing becomes nothing then at that stage. There's no rhyme or reason for a thinking man's existence. We should all just kill ourselves. We should never have children at this point in our life because we understand these fucking complexities, or we should kill ourselves, or we have to come to understand that there's a greater rhyme and reason and greater motivation behind everything. And I think this is fundamentally what flat Earth is about.
absolutely.
That's deep stuff, but
Yeah,
I
but to
tell
do
you,
it,
we are at the top of the pile. We are at the top of the pile in the sense Einstein is long debunked. The moon hoax is landings long debunked.
but
9/11 long debunked. You know what I mean, Dave?
Pete, there's
Who
some
we have to
people.
appeal to? Who
Yeah,
we have to appeal to?
there's some people, Pete. There's some people you can explain things to them, and you understand straight away. Then there's other people you can explain it to them, and they just don't want to know.
Hey,
There's something wrong with their brains. Is
c'est
it?
la vie. C'est la
I,
vie. How many people do we know in life?
I used to say it was their ego, but no, there's something wrong with their brains. I think, like people saying that straight lines have to be curved. No,
I don't know.
yeah,
And and I guess I can appreciate what you're saying. And I guess the most frustrating thing is it's not so difficult what we're saying. It's not. This is what I say about Bev. I don't criticize Bev at all. I love Bev, and I love all. I know somewhat the characters he has around him as well. I love them all as well. But yeah, they have their limitations, and they don't like to go into any greater beyond, and that's fair enough.
we don't want to, Pete. We don't want to.
Right. But that's my whole point here. My whole point about me and PJ, my channel, not my channel, I'm not selling anything. All I'm saying though to the individual, to you, Dave, as I'm speaking to you, why is my fucking camera like that? Okay,
We don't want to.
I gotta turn around. I was waiting for the earth to turn around, Dave. My fault.
We're not going to talk about gas pressure and all that bullshit over it.
No, we already know that.
Because we
We
know
already know that.
we're not going to bring up another argument when it's not needed. We know it's all
No.
lies.
My point I was trying to make was that when it comes to the greater questioning, though, the nature of our reality, my whole point here is that we are an intrinsic part of God. My son is God. I told him that. You are God in the sense that I recognize it anyway and say that we have the ability given to us to figure out all of this stuff. It's easy. Once we have the proper context for
Absolutely.
flat earthers, then we can piece the picture together. It's not for anyone else, though. It's for ourselves. It's for our children. But
As we
now that
say.
we've been given a collective, Dave, now that we've been given a collective, remember this is the first in history. We've been given a collective opportunity to cooperate with our loving human beings across the world. Let everyone judge who's genuine or not. Do you know what I mean? And the only way, last thing I will say, the only way we get to trust and the only way we get to truth is by going through that mire, that pit of vipers, as you say, and recognizing that these are only harmless. These are only harmless sort of snakes. The fear was there that we sort of came to overcome.
As we say in Ireland, we're not thick.
Exactly. There's something special about the Irish, Dave.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure what it is. Irish, iris is the eye as well. When I look at the Earth from the side, let's imagine I was going to the moon, but I'm looking at the Earth in terms of how it really is, as if I was to do it right now. I think of a tree one side, intact. Imagine your Christmas tree generating a vibration, separating the waters, and a tree the other side doing the same thing. The tree is cut the other side, and then you have a collapse in. And this is the iris at the center. So I imagine an eyeball from the side with all the little stringy veins and tentacles that is going out. That's honestly the way I can best imagine it. Honestly, because it's mad as fuck. It's mad as fuck. But I think there's an onus on each and every one of us. If not to paint a picture for yourself, do it for your child, because you are the children. And the father needs the child. The son needs the father more than the father needs the son. That applies to the son of man, the daughter, and the male. But you know what I mean. That's the difference. That's
Pete, you might be right because you're Irish and Ireland is the land of scholars, so you might be onto something there.
I know I'm onto something. Because according to the official bullshit history, when civilization was said to be eliminated completely, it's all bullshit, of course. Who sustained it? The Irish monks in Western Ireland. Where am I? I'm Western Ireland here. And Dave, you might laugh at me. I declared myself King of Era in front of the court, in front of lots of other what you might call officials. They normally take the piss out of me as being King of Era, but I don't mean it in any haughty sense. I love and adore each and every one of us, and we are all the highest authority on this land. Whatever it is, we are given authority to this, and maybe this is part of our challenge to come to terms with life. Remember, I'm only 50. You sound like you're much less, Dave, or maybe around the same. It's nothing at all.
I was born in 68.
68. Well, brilliant man. Prime of your life. King of Era. Big hug, Brad. Big hug, David. Big hug. Whatever your motivations, I don't care what they are. I sense a good heart, but I also know there's limitations with lots of characters in these later stages of the arena. Remember, we are leaving all of the giants of Newton. He's gone behind wayside like fart, and he's gone. He didn't even exist. First of all, Einstein, he's already decoded. Now we have the Bible playing out in these times, and all the greater characters. It's a greater stage. Remember Shakespeare in his Globe Theatre. So for to look at it like that, well then it's a different onus on our own mind. It's not what you do in person. We can't make any difference in person really, except the interactions you have with people. I'm a busker as well, Dave. Don't get me talking about some of the interactions I have. I ingrain it into my brain. Remember this. Don't forget these little passing moments. You know what I mean? But when it comes to what we can encompass, and if you think about it, all I am is a memory. The only thing I can build my next sentence on is my memory of my last sentence, which encompasses all of my sentences. So somewhere within, there is this greater encompassment. The only person that can bring themselves back to, I actually have loads of riddles I should bring up on my own channel, but the only person that can bring themselves back to any particular point in their time, well, is you yourself. Imagine I asked you, where were you? Can you think of a point in time specifically when you were 5.5, something like that? You go, okay, give me a little bit of time. I remember I started school, blah, blah, blah. Then something you would hone in on. You can't relate to anyone else the reality of it, but from your own point of view, it would be absolutely true, and you would be absolutely answering honestly, as I would, as anyone else would.
Happy memories, yeah.
So that's who we are in a sense, you know what I mean? And all there is the now. The NWO is the now mixed around. And then when you mix it around again, you have the one. Do you remember Boy George? Boy George, David?
Yeah.
Of course you do. And all these tranny stuff, that was early fucking...
Come on, chameleon.
But it's like,
He had a, no, geez, don't sing.
come,
Jeez.
chameleon.
He had a great song.
Come and go, you come and
Fuck's sake.
go. Loving is easy when your colors are like mine. Red, gold, and green.
Yeah, that
Red,
was a
gold,
shit song.
and green.
That was a shit song. His best song was, I think it was Culture Club. His best song was Church of the Poison Ivy.
Oh, I don't recall that one, bud.
Ah, that was a great song. Church of the Poison Ivy. I think he sang that with Culture Club before he went solo.
What do you reckon of all these characters set up for the roles they play? What do you reckon about all the fake deaths? See, are you on board like David Bowie faked his death or Michael Jackson? Don't get me talking about Michael Jackson.
I definitely believe that Michael Jackson faked his death. He was going to prison. That guy. He had to fucking go somewhere. Who else? I'm not sure about Elvis. A lot of people say that Elvis faked his death, but I'm not sure.
Did you know Michael Jackson? Michael Jackson married Elvis's daughter.
Yeah, Lisa Presley. Yeah, and then he was caught in the balcony, hanging the child over the balcony, wasn't he? You remember that? He nearly got arrested.
Of course I do. I remember that.
He nearly got arrested, and like I don't know, he was so fucked up, Michael Jackson. Like, how can you be black and then become grey? You know, and like his
Black and
nose,
tan.
yeah, his nose fucked up and everything. He looked like a woman at the end. Like he did. He looked like a woman. Then he started to look like a skeleton. He had to go somewhere, but I don't think he's dead. He's probably somewhere out in the island. Probably,
Wow.
he's probably out in the island Barracuda, and people use him as bait to fucking fish for gorads or something like that. Big fucking schooner fish, big swordfishes. You put him on the end of a hook.
I think he's exactly active right now behind the scenes. I think all of these characters
Oh yeah, you're right.
play lifelong roles, and what's happening now is monumental. David, what do you think? David, how many injections did you take from Corona?
0.
Just to let the audience know. So you're saying you took 0 injections, but you're not saying you took no injections, right?
I took no injections.
Okay, you are saying. So just for the audience, he said he took no injections and he took 0 injections, just like myself.
Yeah.
Well, how many injections what do you reckon? How many? Okay, if you were
But I still have I have my papers to say I have all my injections.
Well, it's a different matter. Hey, listen, what happened? What you say on PJ's stays on PJ's channel, right? And luckily, you don't need them to go in and have a fucking bag of chips and a pint in your local pub anymore, Dave. Sure,
I never had a problem with that.
I never got those actually,
During
and
the
I could
COVID
have done that.
lockdowns, and that was bullshit.
Yeah, well, the one thing the reason why I didn't do that, and it got me into loads of trouble in a sense, but is because I just don't like to have to fucking lie for it. You know what I mean? For the sake of this fucking bullshit nonsense.
Yeah.
And I was never very active anyway. But can I ask you a question? Just generally, statistically speaking, amongst your family, friends, your neighborhood, your general area of living, just statistically wise, how many people out of 10, percentage wise, how many people would you say were injected, fell for the fear porn and took injections?
Well, I live out in a bit of the countryside. My direct neighbour now, all of his family were anti-injections. All of my family, wife, 2 kids, they didn't get the injections. My mother,
90% then.
My mother in Ireland, my father's dead, but my mother in Ireland, all my siblings in Ireland got the injection. My 2 daughters, no injection. My wife, no injection. Her parents, my in-laws, no injections. So
okay, but about 80% then maybe overall.
Yeah, I'd say about that. Yeah.
Fucking hell, fair play. You forgot you're still in France. I should practice my French. Il y a longtemps que je parle français, David.
Bah, c'est pas grave, je comprends bien.
I went to France and on a few occasions, but are you still in France now?
yes, I'm in La
What's your family
Rochelle.
home?
La
Very
Rochelle.
good, bud. Well, best wishes to you and of course your beautiful family as
Oh,
well.
Pete, do you follow the rugby?
Not I don't pay attention to
Ah,
these things anymore. You know what I mean?
you're a monster man anyway. But
But you
yeah,
know what I mean? I don't know. I'm not. I don't
no,
even care.
well,
Everyone else is, but I
well,
don't. Fuck it.
where I live, La Rochelle, they were champions of Europe rugby
I can see
this year.
fucking Thomond Park. Hey, what's his name? What's his name with the red hair? The English or the Irish guy?
Ronan,
Ed Sheeran. Ed Sheeran was playing in Thomond Park. I can see it. It's only about fucking
uh,
200 meters up the road.
yeah,
I don't know,
I
High
like
Road,
Ed Sheeran.
Timbergate, Devil
I
Park,
like Ed
and
Sheeran. He's
so
good.
yeah, that's the Munster ground. But yeah, honestly, I don't pay any attention. But whenever there is a match on, there actually, I'm going to tell you something, Dave. Whenever there's a match on, of course, in normal times, massive crowds, and
Yeah.
I'm grown out of it.
You know Ronan
But
O'Gara.
let me say this. Let me say this. When the Corona was in play, right, there was the rugby team was playing. I'm sure you'll be able to remember. Maybe if you followed Munster, Munster were playing some other foreign crowd. I said, right, fuck this. I'm going to go up and play my Corona as a hoax song, which I must play actually. And I went up, and there was no one around. The reason I went up was because I was thinking there must be some cameras around. Maybe there's a bit of people gathered around. It's only 200 meters away, but there was no one at all there. So I just stood by the side gate and I played it, and there was a few little bouncers on the inside of the gate, and that was it. It was more a symbolic representation I did.
Did
But
you have
that's
your
okay.
mask on?
The Munster home ground, yeah.
Did you have your mask on?
Yeah, right.
But you know Ronan O'Gara, don't you?
I know the name, of course. I know he plays
Yeah.
for Ireland.
He manages the team over where I am now.
Yes, I heard that.
He's
All
doing
right.
well.
Are you associated with him? Do you know him over there?
Oh yeah, I met him a few times. Yeah,
Okay.
lovely chap.
I
Lovely
believe so.
wife.
My son's mother had a crush on him.
Yeah, I know he's a lovely wife. He has 5 kids, 5 little kids.
I believe, yeah, I've heard of it on the television. Do you know
He does the RTE. He does the commentating for the Irish matches.
yeah, do you know Liam Toland?
I do indeed, yeah.
All right, I know Liam Toland. I went to University of Limerick here, Dave, and Liam was, I don't know what he was. Was he an engineering student to begin with, or I think he was in my. He actually was. He was in my class, and then he decided to leave for the army. I never heard of him since. And the next time I heard of him then was he was on television commentating. So obviously he had a big rugby career and a successful career. I believe he's successful as well. But right now as well. But yeah, okay, fair play. Fair play. I mean,
Yeah,
but you know,
you have a,
I wonder where these people stand. Did you ever ask Ronan Nagara about is the earth flat or not?
no, I wouldn't talk about that. No.
I would ask him straight away, bud. I would ask him straight away.
Yeah. You have a hello from Big Mac Miller Light in chat.
Well,
Pete.
Big Mac Miller Light, how you doing, bud?
Yeah, he said hello.
Jump in. Does he want the link? The link is above Big Mac Miller Light. Jump in, bud. I'll keep it going a while. I have 20 hours per month, so I was on about 6 hours last time. So if I was to keep the 4 hours this time, it gives them another hour. That'd be cool.
Pete, I'm just gonna pop out for a sec. I'm gonna go outside.
Feel that you don't have to ask any permission about it. Just
no, because I'm not allowed to. I'm after rolling myself one, and I'm not allowed to smoke it in the house.
Right, neither am I. I'm smoking at the window here.
She'll kill me. She'll kill me. I'll be back in a sec.
Yeah, if I keep going for another hour, I'll give us maybe 10 hours for the rest of the month then until the 20th of next month. But I do enough talking anyway. In a sense, all of this is artificial, you know what I mean? In a sense, though, it's as real can be. There's so few people you can talk to openly and freely. And this is what I insist on in terms of my own channel here. This is what I sort of say that for the most part, it's it's my own therapy, my own ability just to talk out loud, not interrupted, uninterrupted, but not as if I'm not willing to be challenged or questioned or anything like that, but just to talk openly and freely. Because there really is, in reality, no one else to talk to. Outside of my son, I could talk to my son all day and all night, every day and every night. But that's not the way it is at the minute. So yeah, let me sing my Corona's a hoax song now. I better keep it down a small bit just because it's a bit late here in Ireland, which is it's even later in France where David's at. Vive la France. Je parle français comme un vache espagnol. J'adore la langue française, mais il y a depuis longtemps que je le parle comme. Oh, Dave, I should sing you sometime my version of Ne me quitte pas, il faut t'oublier, tu peux s'oublier, qui s'enfuit déjà. Who's that? What the fuck is his name? I was just singing my version of that, but in the meantime, let me sing my Corona's a hoax. So I reckon you can get away with it now that Corona is sort of gone, dead and gone, lost and gone forever. Oh, my darling, Corona.
Jacques Brel.
Okay. Well, let me sing my Corona's a hoax song if you haven't heard it.
Jacques Brel.
This song got me into a lot of trouble, but yeah. Well, hang on. I hear you there, Dave. Are you going for your cigarette or back from it?
She's gone to bed. I'm smoking it here. Fuck it.
That's one bad. Turn down the volume, so I'm gonna. This is my Corona's a hoax song. It's got me into a lot of trouble. I actually sang it today.
I have you on my headphones.
Oh, nice one, nice one. So, what do you reckon of this? Corona's a hoax. COVID is a joke. COVID's a hoax. Corona's a joke. What are you going to do when you find out they went to make the door to wild? Corona's a hoax. COVID's a joke. COVID's a hoax. Corona's a joke. What are you going to do when you find out they went to make the door to wild? Okay, I've heard it.
Don't bang it. Don't bang it. Shut up.
You heard it knocking on the door.
Shut the fuck up.
Well, you get the gist anyway. That was only the start of it, but it built up.
Did you get given out for making too much noise?
Well, it is. It's later there in France than it is here in Ireland.
It's half two here, yeah.
It is a bit late. Well, you got to have due consideration in fairness. But the gist of the song, though, David, was the ending of the song was about taking the vax. So it's like, okay, she's giving that there. Anyway, the gist of it was take the vax, put on a mask like a good little boy, take the vax like a good little boy. Don't give the vax to your good little girl. So definitely build up, and I probably should release it as well, just on my own channel. I guess there's nothing stopping me from just singing a load of songs and just releasing them on my own channel as a thing in itself. So maybe I should do that and see how that turns out. But well, what do you reckon? Is the corona lost and gone forever now, Dave?
No,
Any people who have had regrets for taking the vaccine? Do you think the vaccine is killing people?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, a lot of people are dying, and There was there's some guy, you probably know him, he comes in here sometimes. What's his name? Ian Adams. Did you ever see Ian Adams in here?
Yes.
I introduced him to your channel, so you probably see him the other night. He was in here, but he was telling me that the first case of um, Corona was paid back by the government in England there the other day, 155,000. It's not much, but some guy, some woman pressed charges against the government because she lost her husband because he was in good health and he got the vaccinations and he died, and she could prove that it was a direct cause of the vaccinations. So they gave her 155,000, which is fuck all, but she got money. But it's a start. People are pressing charges, and I go into a lot of channels on YouTube. Probably YouTube is not a good fucking reference, but there's a lot of channels out there. You see people talking about, people, and they're actually crying on camera saying, I lost my husband, I lost my daughter, I lost me, like, people that died from the vaccinations. You see that a lot.
I told a story about my neighbor Dave, and he had the booster, and 2 hours later he had the most massive heart attack.
Yeah.
I've heard other stories from other people where
Yeah.
people have died, and
I was worried. My mother, she's 80, and like I couldn't do anything about it because I'm over here in France. But I told my sister not to get her, not to do it. But she did it anyway. Please God, she'll be okay. But she seems in good form. She got the 3 vaccinations, the booster and all that shit.
I'm my own thoughts
But
on what might be going on as well.
what can you do? What can you do? What can you do?
Well,
my brother took it. I told him not to take it, and my 2 sisters. One of my sisters, yeah, Tato. I have them. I get them sent over to me.
Did anyone follow your advice?
Yeah, my youngest sister did. But
I bet she's fine, right? I bet she's fine, doing fine right now.
Yeah, she's doing fine now. Actually, I get the Tato sent over to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do. Sometimes there's where I live. Obviously in France, there's a lot of English that buy houses over here. And during the COVID,
how long you lived in France?
I'm 30 years in France. But anyway, during the COVID, like, the English have a lot of. I work for a company during the week, but I set up my own business for the weekends. The English couldn't come over to cut the grass in France during the COVID. They hadn't come for about a year. So I went onto Facebook and says I'm available. So I went around all the English houses and cutting the grass. I was charging them 20 euros an hour. It was fucking deadly. I was getting nearly 200.
Nice work, you can get it.
I was getting, during the COVID, I was getting nearly 200 quid a day. And then now the COVID's over and they keep me on now because they come back and forward, they come back every month or every 2 months. So I still have about 3 or 4 clients and I still charge them 20 fucking euro. It's great. You do a good Sunday, you do a good Saturday and a good Sunday morning there. Jesus, great money.
Do what you have to do, Dave, to survive in this. We know that everything
I
is
love the
alive.
nature, Pete. I love the nature. I love the grass and trimming the trees, and I love the nature. You've seen the birds. I cut around the nests. I see the nest in the hay or in the hedges and that. I love that. Give them a bit of bread. I bring the old sliced pan with me. Give them a bit of bread.
Nice one. Yeah. Nice one. The birds. I love the birds around here as well.
Yeah, we don't have the Brennan. We don't have the Brennan's bread over here.
You don't have that,
No, we have the baguettes. The baguettes.
That's a fairly decent replacement. I get used to that, right? I get used to there's some great different styles of breads in France, isn't there? I love France. Yeah. I drove through, I think I was telling you this before, but I drove through France Well, my sister was getting married in northern Italy, and it was the most wonderful experience. I loved it all the way through. I drove through the diagonal
Mm.
and a bit at the top, and I was coming back around. But of all the countries I drove through, Belgium and France were the most lovely ones. They were gorgeous, both of them. But France is quite
France is a
boring.
beautiful country.
France is one thing, yeah.
I know more France than I do Ireland now. Traveling a lot in France.
Yeah, I agree with you. There was nothing like it. And, my Steve, when he was in his mum's belly, for maybe everything is written, David, but one thing we did was make it to France. We made it to Paris. We were up at the top of the Eiffel Tower. As I
Yeah.
often said that to Steve, that he was at the top of the Eiffel Tower. Since I came to find out about Aristarchus, what I describe as a starchism, which is a reference to the tree of life, which is Aristarchus. Paristarchus is a good one, or Polaristarchus. Is a good, you know what I mean? It's a reference to the greater theme there. I think that in my own way, everything is significant. Everything that happens in every one of our individual lives, counts. It counts
Yeah.
towards a greater theme, I guess, and it's only because we've come away from the understanding that nothing counts. You know?
So come here, Pete. So we were talking about the heavens above, the dome, and that. Do you think it stops there, or is there? We know we're on a level plane. Do you think it stops? It stops at the ice wall. Apparently the ice wall, or does it go further? I believe it's a level plane and it's infinitive. There might be other worlds.
At this point, I guess this is the ultimate point, isn't it? I think it does stop. I think there is a boundary. We are on the tree of life. This is what the tree is. So, what do we all look forward to? Christmas time. Cut tree was put in place, and then a reconnection was made. I think, even though it's all within a construct, it's a simulation, if you want. We're a greater mind, a greater spirit, but there is a bound. There's a material bounds, and that bound is described by, well, the energies penetrating within the waters beyond. The best way I think I can look at it myself, give possibilities, but the best way I can look at it myself is that we're within this construct. We're just a bubble, an eyeball, if you want, if you look at it from the side, within greater waters, which is what actually 2001: A Space Odyssey leaves us with the birth. It's like the child in the womb. The
So
word.
we're alone. We're alone. There's no other worlds like us.
It's magical. Look at your children. You know what I mean? There's a great debate about the hey Dave. I mean, there's a not the great debate, but about the overturning of the nationwide not evolution abortion ruling in America. And of
Yeah.
course, in Ireland here, abortion came in a few years ago, and apparently I saw it on the sign as I was traveling somewhere that it was 13,000 babies, which I'm going to call it babies. The minute a child is created, that's when
That's
existence
right.
occurs,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But 13,000 babies were killed since the abortion legalization came in Ireland. I remember back at the time I was an ardent opposer to it. I did in my own heart, but anytime I encountered the people who were pro-abortion, I objected to it. I even went to as a passing to church one day, and I asked them their point of view on it, and they said, "Well, the church is pro-abortion because they're moving with the times," and I gave out the blessing themselves, like what I mean.
Well,
But
it's a topic. It can be debated because imagine
well,
rape and that. If somebody got
well,
raped and got pregnant, like you would like an abortion.
my answer to that is, excuse me, meeting. My answer to that is, they're extreme situations. In general, though, yeah, you've got to keep the child. It's outside of your hands in a certain sense. As a flat earther, I'm speaking as well. It's greater power in play. We're no longer just sort of meat sticks, and we're no longer products of blind evolution. So some great terrible deeds, some greatly terrible deeds lead to some great outcomes. The best of men or best of people come from the worst of origins. So yeah, it's not in our hands anymore. That's what I would say to that. When it comes to those, these would be legal. These would be legal arguments, and all legal arguments are based on maritime law or commercial law in a sense. They view all of us as chattel, as commodities to be bargained with on this fantasy globe earth. But ultimately, thou shalt not kill. Simple as that. It's a rule that applies across the board.
Uh,
If you're raped, if I was raped, of course I understand the counter argument. And of course, if it was ultimately in the woman's hands themselves and outside of all of influence on the proper circumstances, remember we live in a fucked up society.
yeah,
We live in a fucked up world. But if she made the decision then, yes, fair enough, you have the ultimate choice. But it would not be the recommended way to go because all life is precious, no matter what the origin.
absolutely. I agree that all life is precious. There's another argument as well. Like we have science now with the technology they have today, they can see if your kid's going to be all right or not. And in some cases, your kid's going to be mentally handicapped. So people do have the choice to have the abortion because there's going to be a lot of suffering
Right,
for the child and for the parents for the rest of the life.
exactly.
So that's a
There'll be
choice
a
to
lot
be
of,
made as well. You know,
I think it leaves a mark. But look again.
yeah.
Well,
It's
again, I'm
it's
talking
difficult.
about
It's difficult.
well again, but I'm speaking beyond the sort of flat Earth. So there's a different reason. Everything in heliocentrism and beyond, there was no ultimate motivation. Everything you did, it didn't count ultimately. But coming beyond that, yeah, beyond, and I think just in general, if a woman does that to herself, the deed is already done. The child is faultless,
Mm,
you know, and if you do that termination, it will weigh on the woman's own soul as well. So it's not beneficial in any sense.
mm,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
And we don't know what the future entails, Dave.
mm,
No one does. I'm not justifying anything or not making any general rule. And of course, ultimately, we all have that ultimate freedom. But we all have to understand. I don't think there's one flat earther out there who is atheist. I don't think so. I don't. You know what I mean?
no, don't think so.
It can't be. You can't justify atheism as a flat earther.
Well, so there you are.
Nice one, bud. I only got going. I better leave it. I better leave it. It's better if I leave it here, actually, close enough, because I got into the start of my Corona's hopes. I might start up a few hangouts in the next day or
Yeah,
two when I feel like it. But I have 20 hours a month limited. So at least if I gauge it to maybe 2.5 hours, I can get another 4 or 5 shows out. And the funny thing about StreamYard is if I leave the last show to, like, let's say 19 hours, 58 or 59 minutes, then I can start the new show with just 1 minute to spare, but I can keep going on for 12 hours and then it runs out. So I might do that.
you're going now for nearly 3 hours and 20 minutes.
That's that's nothing to me, but
Yeah,
yeah, I appreciate you coming along, Dave.
yeah,
And again, much love to you and your family. I
yeah.
really
You
mean
too
it.
over there. Yeah.
And yeah, King of Era and your family are,
Are you,
well.
are you going to do anything good for the summer, or are you going to travel around, or are you just going to chill in Limerick?
I have no plans at the moment anyway. No
Uh,
immediate plans.
do
But
you fish? No.
do I fish?
Uh,
No, no.
Jesus,
I
they
don't.
shall.
I'm a
Yeah.
vegetarian, man. A vegetarian.
You're not, are you?
So
Vegan.
I have to think of something. I have to do something. I do busk regularly as well, right? So it's just, I think at this moment I'm always expecting, and I have been expecting a transform. You know what I'm talking about here? Transformation any day now.
Mm,
You know what I mean? Everything. I think reality is dissolving, resolving in some way. So there has to be a transition point. If I was to think for a second that this reality, as we experience it now, should continue for, let's say, I'm 50 now, for another 20 years, but then I definitely start making inroads, Dave, into how I'm gonna. I know I can't. I think I know I can't kill myself. I think unless I have
uh,
to be very sure, you know what I mean. But if I was to think in that way, then I'd have to definitely start making inroads into how I can build some sort of profitable future, not for me specifically, for my loved ones, or just something to make life worthwhile. But I think that over the last 10 years or so, almost 10 years, I've been expecting transformation any day. You know what I mean? So it's so difficult to make plans beyond that. Have you
Uh,
any look at that?
can you draw?
Can I
No.
draw?
Art? No.
No, I don't. I don't
You
practice
could
that.
do painting. Some paintings. No, you don't do that.
My father was an artist, but it's not that I couldn't. I guess I don't. Why do you ask that? Do you draw? You do draw. You play guitar as well, don't you, bud?
I used to always know how to draw. Now I have a bit of time in hand, so I went back to drawing. And
Nice one, bud.
actually sold a few. I sold a few pictures.
Nice one, bud.
Yeah, wait, hang on. You got a second? I'll show you some. Hang on.
Yeah, I'd love to see him.
Hey.
Nice one, bud. How long are you a flat earther, David? You already gave away your age when you were born in 1968, so you are 54. But how long have you been a flat earther? And do you think that becoming a flat earther has influenced your drawings, sort of pre and post realization? I bought a book actually. Let me show you. Oh, here we go. Look. When I say I don't draw, I actually bought a book. So many times I've always had the intention to just sit down and just learn how to draw. And not that I particularly bought this book, but I have a few drawings or attempted drawings at certain things strewn throughout this book. But it's funny, it is actually a drawing book. And you know who I bought this for? There's a good friend of mine, Morris O'Brien. His father was dying, getting a stroke in Limerick, and I was thinking when I was visiting Andrew that yeah, he understands everything, but he just can't express it.
Which
But
is like, hang on.
yeah, go on. Yeah, that's why I bought this book though, and yeah, I ended up using it for myself because he died. It turns out he died of cancer a short time later. I sort of knew he would as well. The minute they put him on cancer and they didn't give him productive treatment. Anyway, wrestling.
Coming out.
My sister's in. My mother told me my sister's in New York this time. Maybe that's symbolic as well. I told you earlier on. My sister doesn't talk to me from the time I told her 9/11 was fake and no one died. What are you blaming me for? Selfish. Selfish.
Are you still there?
Yes, I am.
Hang on. Let me show you. Let me turn on the camera. Oh, you see my mug?
Oh, nice one, bud.
That's me.
Nice one, Dave.
Right,
Right.
this
What do
is
you mean you're 54? What do you mean you're 54? You're
54.
only about 27.
This is a monster man. Oh, shit, you can't really
Oh,
see that.
yeah. That's Ronan Agara, right?
Yeah,
Nice one, bud. Is that a drawing? Picture, is
yeah.
it?
It's a drawing.
Nice one, bud. Did you show that to him? Has he seen that?
No, I must show it to him.
Yeah, you must definitely show him.
Let me show
That's
you.
pretty good, man.
What do you mean? It's bleeding excellent. I brought them all down here. Hang on. Don't want to break them. You know this lad?
Oh, Mr. Mercury.
Yeah.
I can't say. Bring it closer to the camera, man. The way.
Shit. Hang on. What way is that coming up? Just the shine of
That's pretty damn good, isn't it? That's a photorealistic. What is that?
charcoal.
Charcoal drawing. That's
Yeah.
something else, man. Have you showed Freddie that? Have you showed Roland? Have you showed Roland the picture of Freddie?
No, no. This is your man that was playing the other night. Ed Sheeran, huh?
Oh, nice one, bud.
I like the
Fucking hell.
guitar.
They are really. Jesus, you wouldn't know that you weren't looking at a black and white capture of them. He's not my man as well, but I did hear him from the window.
I like him. Oh, here's the boss.
Well. The king himself.
Yeah. I can't get that fucking shine off the camera. Yeah.
No, you're excellent, man. That's something else, David.
Yeah, so I got back into drawing there about during the COVID. I was doing nothing, so I got back into drawing.
So what have you showed those pictures to people, or have you
people ask me
from them or selling them or anything like that?
Yeah, people ask me to do portraits of their children and that, so I sell them for a few. Hang on, wait, I've more. Wait, I've 3 more. Hang on. Don't break them.
Hi, David. You hardly look 54, bud.
Oh, I look young. The Shining. Look.
I know. Yeah, that's pretty. That's pretty spot on, isn't it?
Yeah, I like that one.
I mean, that's pretty. That's not. What do you mean? Okay? That's pretty professional.
That's charcoal and graphic pencil.
How long does it take you to do this? How long does it take you to do it?
It takes me about. I'd say about 20 hours. Yeah, 20 hours, but you wouldn't go for 20 hours.
Yeah. That's something else.
This is a smoker.
Yeah, nice one.
Bob Marley.
Bob Marley.
Yeah.
Nice one. Jesus, you had. Is that all? So Corona, were you in the midst of lockdown and you took?
Yeah, I did a few during the lockdown. Yeah. Did a few during the lockdown.
Hell, how productive was that for you, man? Look what you have to show for it.
Yeah. So I love it. It's meditation for me. And here's our man. Look, you know him, the Irish lad.
Conor McGregor. That's the name I was trying to think of tonight. The Irish icons. The 2 Dublin icons. Conor McGregor and Colin Farrell.
Fucking easy that lad, but
Very good,
that was a good draw.
Very good.
I did a bit of the.
Is that your own? You see what's going on beneath? Obviously, we all recognize the face. What's going on beneath? Is that your own individual art?
Well, that's his tattoo.
You should send that to him, man. If you're interested in sort of licensing it out, you should send that to him for some sort of. I'm not saying you should, but like you should definitely consider it.
Yeah.
Just as a possibility for a print. I mean, he's multinational these days.
Oh yeah, he's a millionaire. He is. He's a millionaire.
But I'm not. My own. That's brilliant stuff. Brilliant stuff.
It's meditation for me now. Like when I'm a bit stressed out, I just go into my office here and close the door. Probably smoke a joint and just draw.
The question I asked when you were out retrieving your images there was that, well, when did you become a flat earther, and did your sort of your painting or your inspiration change or your output change, and so post and pre the realization?
When did it change? Hang on, I'll answer that. I just put these against the wall. I'll answer that in a second. Hang on. Hang on. Hey Pete, you still there?
Yeah.
There's something hanging up in the wall as well. Look. There's Sexton.
That's what I'm
him?
talking about. That's what I'm talking about. You're sort of outside of the portraits. What inspiration has the flat Earth or beyond? You know what I mean? I don't know when did you become a flat earther first? I think you mentioned it before. So was it 2000? Yeah, you said it there, didn't you?
Hang on.
8 years ago or something. It changes everything, doesn't it, Dave? So I guess you're painting all the time. So all of those representations
When
you
did
have
I?
on the wall there, you're painting all the time, and you're expressing your own thoughts.
Yeah. When did I
Has your
become a?
art changed post flat Earth as opposed to pre flat Earth?
Sorry, what's the question again? What's he saying?
Are you winding me up? Taking the piss out of me.
When did I become a flat earther?
I was just saying, has your I know you were getting yourself organized. Great pictures as well. Have you had your inspiration for your art changed post flat Earth versus pre flat Earth? And when did you become flat Earth? I think you mentioned it 8 years ago, was it?
And 5, 15, 17.
Not being born. Were you born a flat
It
earther,
was, it
Dave?
was,
Were you told early doors like Johnny B that
no,
the earth is flat?
it was 5 years ago, Pete.
Why?
But yeah, 2017.
Man.
But
So that's brilliant, man. But has your inspiration for your art changed post versus pre?
well, yeah, between since I'm a flat earther, I'm more, I'm less stressed out. You know what I mean? How do you explain that? I'm less, less stressed out, if you want to say.
Well,
I don't know how to explain myself, but yeah, I kind of find more time for myself, and I want to find more time for myself. It's not just the jungle life, you know, as we say in France, metro boulot dodo. You know what I mean? I enjoy
okay.
life more. I
Let
enjoy
me
life
ask you.
more.
Let me ask you then. So you know those the portrait you showed, which are brilliant, man. Just from the brief glimpse I got of it, I'm going to sit down a second. From the brief, I sit down now. Actually. From the brief glimpse I got of them, brilliant. But all of these different representations of sort of icons and iconic moments or iconic points in history in the different genres. Could there be actors on the stage representing a greater script that's been played out? And I've definitely delved deep into that in my own way. And Elvis, definitely, The Shining, which it connects back to 2001: A Space Odyssey via Stanley Kubrick. If everything's connected in a greater theme, but then the artist in you is dying to know what this greater connection is. That's what I'm going to say about all of this. This is probably the purpose, the way I put it down to. You've heard of IPS, Tim Osman. You've heard of um, lots of other characters, Jungle Surfers. But you know, Jungle Surfer. Have you ever heard of Jungle Surfer? Maybe not, it was before your time.
No.
Some great characters who went into the decoding of it, assuming that everything was scripted out. You know what I mean? So all of these greater influences are put in place to represent something archetypal, which is ultimately symbolic and appropriate to our own being. So that's what I was talking about. There is what was it? What to sum it up? What I mean by it is it's flat Earth is almost just the beginning. Story is already known. We only came to flat Earth via encouragement, via sort of direction. Someone was pointing us in that way. So yeah, there's a greater story there for us as individuals in our own life. That's all we live is our own life, in that greater reckoning sense. Everything means everything, as opposed to before what we left behind, what you left behind in 2017. I probably did in 2000. I would say if you were to nail me down, Flat Earthers 2000, late 2013. I considered it about 2011 and onwards,
Yeah.
but definitely came down and then understood there's a greater story being woven out. And of course, when we come to flat Earth, then we question history. That's the very next thing we question. What we can't believe recent history. How far back can we go and believe what's presented beforehand? And this is where, well, flat Earth branches out. Martin, Liedtke, Tartaria, mud floods, Anatoly Fomenko. So yeah, that's the sense I meant it in. And that's because I have ultimate faith in you, David, in the sense that, yeah, we are all of the same kind. And I do wholeheartedly believe we have the ability to come to terms with a greater picture as opposed to just giving up. You know what I mean?
Where they pay,
Yes.
we
Yeah.
come from the country of scholars. That's what I'm saying.
Well, there you go. There you go. You can just give up, though. You can, like Nathan Oakley does. I've said it to him. I'm run-ins with everyone. But what do you mean, Nathan, that you look into the world with a new childlike wonder, as if the slate is wiped completely clean and we're venturing into new lands? No, the script writers are already in possession, whoever they might be, in possession of a greater truth. That's how they built the lie. So no matter what's behind that, we know that there's more to go. So I think the only thing we can do is accept that we are in this greater realm, and the only way we can make progress, nothing new under the sun or Aristarchus, is by following the clues. It's by piecing all the puzzle pieces together that we can personally, it doesn't make any difference to anyone ultimately, although it can possibly because of the ability to interact across the earth that we have here. But ultimately, yeah, we live our own lives, and it's for the purposes of our own reckoning, our own ability to come to terms with our own existence. You know what I mean?
I do
So
indeed.
that's what I would say about that. And there's definitely much to be said. I definitely highly recommend you go to Tim Osmond's channel, IPS, and look at the meta scriptural breakdown. Because Elvis, Elvis, what do you mean you doubt? Elvis, of course, faked his death. Elvis died on the throne. Elvis is the king. The throne is, well, the toilet, right? When Elvis's favorite book, what was it? Well, at the time he died, Elvis was reading a book about how I think Jesus faked his death or something like that. And also Elvis's favorite book was something got to do with King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. I think this is all scripted out for us. You know what I mean? So Elvis faking his death at 42. Lots to be said about 42 being the number representing fallen. If we take a pair of dice and we add up all the sides, so the dice represents a Saturn. If you
Mm.
think about Saturn representing the material heart, which is the one, Saturn, Satan, the one. So we have the one and the zero. As Saturn, the three-dimensional representation of the one is the cube. But there's all these different connections. But if we take a pair of dice and you add up all the sides, then you get 42. We have to decide. Here's a big question, David, for us to consider is if we take three of the same kind and we make six of the same kind from three of the same kind, do we divide or do we multiply? In reality, we can only divide, right? We can only divide. In mathematics, we multiply. So this is telling us, in a sense, that we're in an upside down existence. Everything is flipped on its head. Everything is flipped on its head. And Elvis ultimately, for me, goes back to Alice in Wonderland and Alice Through the Looking Glass. And don't get me started on the dodo bird. Don't get me started on the dodo bird because it's too late. And definitely going to leave it there, David, because I got to go down and get a cup of tea or something. It's been great chatting, bud, and I
Yeah, no
appreciate
worries.
the camera as
Get
well.
some
And
sleep.
I
Get some
appreciate
sleep.
all your images as well,
Yeah.
and all
Thanks
your
for the chat.
efforts.
Yeah.
Shout out to all the people you're in communication with over Bev's channel or
Yeah,
elsewhere.
sure. Come over
And
for a chat.
don't be afraid to jump into Gem Pandas as well.
I know,
You can
that's a
handle
cesspit.
yourself.
Fuck that
You can
shit.
handle yourself. It's good to get your blood boiling at some
Yeah.
point. The best way you can, it's like a game of chess. Alice in Wonderland, there's two settings. Alice Through Looking Glass takes place over the game of chess. Remember, in our existence, we have the mental and we have the physical. We have the drive down and we have the drive upwards. So by going over there, just because you never know where you're going to get your next clue as well, by being in possession of your own wits and knowing the truth in your own heart anyway, you'll easily be able to defeat them. And to any listener, this is what it's about, what they hear. And they'll be able to see, hang on, that ball earther wasn't able to fucking defend anything like that. He had to immediately revert back to personal slights and, you know, yeah. So, who knows what sort of difference our individual interactions make at any point. But yeah, thanks again, David, for joining and
Sláinte.
launching my friend and
Sláinte le gara.
all the best.
Take care, Pete. Right, I'll see you around, and I'll probably pop in to see you when you go live again. Okay.
Nice one, bud.
Thanks.
Okay, friends, I better leave it there as well. And well, that was a great chat. My fellow countryman David there. And well, yeah. Where does that leave us? The ongoing puzzle. Let's see where tomorrow takes us. Thanks again for tuning in, and love to all. Oh well, my friends. I love you, my Steve.